Hello everyone, welcome to What If Deku Was Betrayed, Framed, Went to Jail and Got God of Lightning Powers movie. Before we start, please go support Zeus935 for writing that awesome fanfic. Izuku Midoriya was having a great life. He got new friends, he got a quirk, and more importantly he got a new father figure mentor. But what happens when he is framed and everyone but a few betrays him? What happens when the old god of lightning visits him? Will he become the new god of lightning and be proven innocent and God back? Or will he take the power and take his revenge? Find out more on the next episode of Dragon Bay Couch Cough Nevermind. Chapter 1: The Betrayal. No one's POV. The day started normal for the green-haired boy, except for the fact that he was late. Oh, I'm dead, he thought. So he got up, brushed his teeth, took a shower, changed into his uniform and went downstairs. He got a granola bar and ate it quickly and ran to class, but on the way there people were giving him dirty looks. Weird, Deku thought. Time skipu. Still no one's POV. When Izuku got there he saw everyone looking him with betrayal, anger, disgust, fear, hatred and disappointment. Only a few looked at him with sympathy. All he could say was, "Hey guys." Everyone's fury just went ballistic, but only one voice could be heard. "Don't you hey guys us, you traitor," said Lita. "WW what?" is the only word Deku could muster before Todoroki yelled, "Shut up, we don't want to hear a traitor talk." Deku was surprised one of his best friends was accusing him of being a traitor. Then the next thing broke his heart. "I can't believe I went out with a traitor like you disgust me," Uraraka said. Then she slapped him and he floated. Then she grabbed his ankle and said, "Release," and slammed him on the floor. That's when Nizu and All Might showed up. Nizu walked up and said, "Izuku Midoriya, we have reason and evidence to believe that you stole and gave information of us to the League of Villains." Midoriya flinched. Only his mom called him that. What? Nizu pulled out a laptop out of nowhere and said, "This video shows you stealing the archives at 11:39 p.m. To which Deku responded, "What be, but I was asleep by then. All Might please tell then I didn't do anything." Deku pleaded to his father figure mentor, but he just growled at him. "Why would I do that for traitor?" That did it. That shattered him into pieces, but shards that wouldn't budge. There stood Bakugo, Tsu, and Momo all looking at him but with hope. And then he met his childhood friend's eyes and he knew he had a shard of hope. His childhood friend nodded at him, and he smiled and mouthed thank you. Then he turned to the rest of them, and he turned cold. "What were you smiling at, traitor?" said Kaminari, but he just laughed at him. That sent shivers down everybody's spines, and he just said, "At least I have hope of someone thinking I'm innocent. Oh, and for the rest of you, when I'm cleared innocent, the first will not forgive you all." And with that he stood up and went to Mr. Aizawa, who was looking at him with a sorry look, and said, "Thank you for being a good teacher, and keep up the good work." With that he walked to All Might and turned around and put his hands behind his back. All Might cuffed him and took him outside, which was a long walk. On the way there they stopped. "I am taking back what's mine," said All Might. What PP please? All Might, no, not this P please," Deku pleaded with tears in his eyes and his voice cracking. But he just grabbed his head and all the power flowed out of him. At that point he was screaming, "AAGGHHHHH." Then it stopped, and when it did his eyes didn't have any more happiness. They were dull, without the glow it used to have that brought everyone attention. He was now a shell of the past Deku. Then they headed to the van when he fell asleep. Time skip. Izuku's POV. "When I woke up I saw that we were at the airport for some reason." Confused I asked, "Airport?" Then Nizu said, "Oh yeah, you're not going to jail, you're going straight to prison called Belle Reve." I was scared now. I wasn't even getting a fair trial, I was just going straight to prison. Then they grabbed me and put me on the plane, to which I fell asleep again. Another time skip. Still Izuku's POV. "When we arrived they woke me up and took me to the prison. There I was met with a woman about 5 feet 10 inches, African American, and had short hair, almost bald. "Hello Principal Nizu and One Hero All Might, we've been expecting you," the woman said. "Amanda Waller, good to see you," said Nizu. "Likewise." Then she looked at me and said, "This is the prisoner." The now named Amanda Waller said, "Yes, he is very dangerous, make sure to put him in maximum security." This surprised her. "Y'all do know he's 16, right?" she said. "We know, do not underestimate him. Now please to the cells." With that we walked there all the way there, and then we got there. They shoved me in there and left. The guard at my door looked at me and said, "Hey kid, how old are you?" I looked up with my eyes puffed and red, and he immediately knew that this wasn't my fault. I was sniff F framed, and the people I call F friends and my father figure betrayed me and S said I was a traitor. He looked at me and looked at the other guard and he nodded. "We believe you kid, my friend here has a truth quirk that can tell if people are lying. And he says you're not." I looked at him and said, "Thank you so much, S sir. No problem kids, stay good cause I'm here, good behavior does wonders for you." I beamed at this. "Thank you so much, sir." Then I laid down and fell asleep awaiting the next day, saying, "I guess this is my life now, better just be like that person I once read about and be laid back. And be forgetful and compliant." New friends and power? Izuku's POV. I woke up feeling like shit. Wait, since when do I cuss? Sigh. Might as well get used to it. I say out loud, but only for me to hear, so I get up and start doing my workout. So instead of being treated like a hitch, I'm going to push back. As I was finishing my workout, the guard came and gave me food, and I thanked him for it. After that he said, "Izuku, I have to do these mandatory checkups, so just put your hands on the wall, and no funny business, okay?" I looked at him and said, "Yeah, no problem." After he did the checkup, I went back to my workouts, and then fell asleep. This set of events happened off the span of 2 weeks. Well, that's until the guard said, "Hey Izuku," the warden said, "since you've been on good behavior, you get to go to the outside courtyard." I looked at him surprised that they'd let me go outside, but was relieved that I get to go outside, so I agreed, and they took there, and I saw some weights. It wasn't very big, just big enough for there to be 12 people, and there was 11, so I guess I was the 12th. I thanked him and went to the weights, and starting working out and enjoying the fresh air, and I sat down in a bench. That's until someone that looked like a reptile came up to me. "You're in my seat." I looked at him, but I had no fear, and I said, "Come on man, I was just pull up another seat. Why can't we just do our own thing and serve our sentence?" He looked at it and laughed. "Bah ha 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 ha, you got guts kid, I like that. Name's Waylon Jones you." He put his hand out to take it. I looked at him surprised. I thought he would get mad like most people, but he didn't, so I smiled and shook his hand. "Izuku midoriya sir, and may I ask, your quid is awesome." His look told me his story. He's never gotten a compliment. BC, he had this look that said, "You're the first person to compliment me." "Haha, thanks kid." "And what's yours?" My face saddened at that, and I just said, "I'm Quirkless." He looked surprised. I thought he was about to insult me like everyone else, but he just said, "Damn kid, and you're in here. I'm afraid of what you could do if you had won." He visibly shivered at that. "Why are you here anyways?" My face saddened more. "I was framed for something I didn't do. They said I stole some files of the school, and they got so mad they cashed in a favor, I'm guessing to because the warden didn't question it, and now I'm here." He looked mad, but then I looked up and his anger vanished, and he said, "Kid, I believe you. You don't have the eyes or the stature of a criminal. I mean, you will in a few months of being here, but right now I can't see it." I looked at Wayland and laughed. For the first time since I came here, a real laugh came out of me. "So why are you in here, Wayland, and where you from?" I said. He looked at me and said, "My story ain't the same as yours kid, at least you're innocent. The first actually did bad stuff like robbery, assault, murder, and I'm from Gotham, and please call me Croc." As he said that, I knew he had regret, so I wasn't scared. Instead, I smiled and remembered what he just said. Gotham, the place where all the villains fear a quirkless hero called the Batman. "Wait, so Croc, since you're from Gotham and you're in here, does that mean you were apprehended by the Batman?" He shivered when I said the Batman, because he might have took a hard beating from him, because from what I heard the Batman was ruthless, but no killing, and he had no emotion. "Yeah, I was, but please don't mention him, he's so scary," Croc said. And at that moment I noticed that Batman might have a fear-inducing quirk cause he looks visibly scared of him. "Alright, I won't. So Croc, what do you do here?" I said. He looked at me with a thankful look, then said, "Oh, I work and hang out with the crew. Come, let me introduce you to them." So he took me, and there I was met with 3 people. One was African American, bald with a beard. The other looked Mexican kind of, and had tattoos all over his head and body. He looked like a Mexican gangster probably was, though. The other had an eye patch over his face, kind of old, looked really deadly. God, I hope he's nice. "Sup guys, I met this kid today, he's cool," Croc said as he gestured to me, so I greeted them. "Hi, I'm Izuku midoriya, and you all are?" "Sup man, name's Floyd Lawton, nice to meet you," said the now known Floyd, who smiled. "Hey, name's Diablo, hope you don't die in this hellhole," said the tattoo man. The guy with the eye patch just scoffed and looked away. The croc whispered, "That's Slade Wilson aka Deathstroke, don't mind him, he doesn't really like other people." I looked at him and whispered, "Yeah, no kidding, don't worry, he'll warm up to you." He whispered, "Alright." I whispered. We all talked for a bit until we had to go back. Week 3. Nothing really happened. I did my normal routine workout, hang out with my friends, eat, go back, work out some more, and sleep. Week 4. Same things happened, but I have heard from my friends that people are talking about me, wonder why. Week 5. Okay, I've heard the rumors and I am dead. Week 6. Today I was walking to the cafeteria without my friends because they went ahead first when all of a sudden 6 people gang up on me and hold me down, and one of them says, "The LOV. Sends their regards." Then he stabs me in the beside the heart. I howl in pain. That's when I heard fighting. Thud, thud, thud. I hear 3 people drop, then smack. I heard someone get slammed to the ground, then thud, thud. Then I looked up who it was. "Oh hey Slad Didi," I said, slurring my words. "Come on kid, don't die, stay awake." I was getting sleep, so I said, "Hey Slade, I'm tired, I'm gonna take a nap, okay?" Then started to close my eyes, but slap. Itai, what was that for? Stay awake, help get the doctors over here. Then came my other friends. Izuku, Izuku, Izuku. They all said at the same time, "Oh he Geisis." I said, still slurring my words, slap. I said, "Stay awake kid, don't you die on us. Help doctors Waller." After a while the doctors came with a stretcher. "Alright kid, this is gonna hurt, okay?" Slade says. I just nod and they pick me up. ACK. I shout in pain and they take me to the hospital bed. They stabilize me until I pass out. I woke up and was met with clouds in a palace that had dragons carving on the side, and it seems like the light and darkness are bending to the right places. Where am I? What is this PLA? Wait, OMG, am I dead? I say, remembering halfway I got stabbed and passed out. Then I heard a booming laughter. "Ha ha ha, you're funny kid, but no, you're not dead, ha ha ha." Then I saw him. He had brown, almost auburn hair, dark brown eyes that held so much power, about 6 feet 3 inches, 6 feet 4 inches, and had a Nike blue shirt and gray shorts. Sir, and not to be rude, but who are you?" Then he stopped laughing and looked at me and said, "Oh right, I forgot names, Raikon kid, but you can call me Julian. It was my mortal name before I became a god." I smiled and said, "Oh hello, my name's Izuku. Wait, did you just say god?" He laughed again and said, "Haha, yeah kid, most people know me as the god of lightning and dragons, emperor of sound, king of fire, crown prince of energy, wielder of the cosmic sword Kurikara, holder of the divine elements light and darkness." I looked at him in utter awe. I was surprised to say the least. Here I was, a mere mortal, in front of the first elemental god. Yes, he knows of the elemental gods because he's a super nerd and read it somewhere. Damn, but why am I here? Then he looked up and said, "Kid, I would like for you to receive my power. I have been looking for someone worthy of holding my divine elements, dragon powers, and Kurikara." I was so shocked. Then he added, "The lightning part you're going to have to learn on your own though, because I can't give skills, so I'm gonna have to train you. So I asked this Izuku midoriya, will you accept my power and be my disciple?" I Lord, I accept. Trying to prove innocence and training. Melissa Shield POV. He didn't expect that. I was so lost. My Izuku was being accused of and sent to PRI. Wait, my Izuku? Where'd that come from anyways? He was still worried about him. I know he didn't do this because why would he need to? I need to prove his innocence. Time skip. Ugh, it's been a month and a half since he went to prison, and I still can't find anything to prove him innocent. Then I remembered Deku once said that if I can't reach him to call his friend Kachan or something like that, so he gave me his phone number. Ring. 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 I heard someone pick up. Hello? Bakugo's POV. I was about to go asleep when I heard my phone ring and I looked at it, and it said unknown, so I wondered who it was, so I picked up. Hello? Hi, is this Bakugo Katsuki? A feminine yet familiar voice said. Yeah, who is this? Hi, my name's Melissa Shield, we met on Island. Oh yeah, it was her, the one that had a crush on Deku. Oh, it's you, the one that has a crush on Deku, I said. WW, what? And no, I do fine, I do, but this isn't why I called. She said. I was confused. Why would she call then? I called to ask if Deku had anything that can prove him innocent. I was surprised someone else thought that Deku was innocent other than me, Ponytail, Frog, Mr. Aizawa, and Firehead Endeavor. Since he saved his kid from suicide, he thinks he's innocent. Wait, you think he's innocent? I said. Yeah, I mean he's heroic and already knows everything about heroes. Why would he need the files? I widened my eyes when it clicked. OMG, the notebooks! I yelled. What? She asked. Deku had always written into notebooks about all the heroes I need to go. Deku will love you when he hears about this, I said. What? She said asked. Gotta go bye. I hung up and ran to Auntie Inko's house. Time skip. When I got there I knocked. My auntie answered, but she looked horrible, red-eyed, looked like she hadn't eaten in days and sad. Katsuki? She asked. Auntie, I may have a way to clear Izuku's innocence, I told her. Wait, what, how? She yelled. I need to check Izuku's room, please, I said. All right, come this way. She led me in. I practically ran to his room and started searching but couldn't find nothing until my aunt asked, Honey, what are you looking for? Auntie, do you know where his notebooks are that he kept that said heroics and numbers on them? Oh, those, yeah, he sent them to a friend called Melissa Shield, but why those? She said. I was mad, but I couldn't show it in front of her. I says that he stole information, but he already has all the information he needs in those notebooks, but I need to make a call, thanks, Auntie. She nodded and I took out my phone and called Blondie. Why Deck has sent you those notebooks, where are they? I said. Wait, what? I haven't gotten any pack. Wait, now I remember, he was supposed to send me those about 3 months ago. The hell happened? She asked. I don't know, but I'm going to make a quick call to the post office. I hung up and called the postal office. Mustafa Postal Service, how may I help you? The woman asked. Hi, I'm here to ask if a package was delivered to Melissa Shield? I asked the woman. Hold on, let me check. Click, 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 I heard. Then she said, Yeah, but a trip to I-Island is hard for our workers, so it's going to be another 4 months. Is that okay? I groaned. Damn, Decky, you better hold on a bit longer. That's fine, miss, thank you, I said. My pleasure. Then I hung up and called Blondie. Hey, I found out it's going to be another 4 months, so we have to wait and pray for him to survive that long in prison, I said. Really? Ugh, fine, I'll wait here, and when I get the package I going straight there. Got it? She said asked. Okay, I'll wait, then we can clear your precious Deka's name, I teased. What? She asked. Nothing, bye, I said and hung up. Damn, this is going to be a long 4 months. Then I passed out and went to sleep, forgetting that I am in Deku's house. Same time with Deku. Izuku's POV. Lord, I accept, I said, accepting the offer. He beamed at this. Alright, but no, my lord, bullshit, I don't like it. Just Julian, aight? He asked. Alright, so how long am I going to train for? I asked him. He looked up with his hand on his chin and then said, About 12,000 years. What, 12,000 years? I'll be a fossil by then. I yelled. He seemed to notice this and said, Don't worry, kid, 3,000 years here is a month out there, so you're fine, my boy. To be honest, I was surprised, so then I said, Alright, then let's do this. With a smirk, get ready to get out through hell. First quarter of the 12,000. He made my life hell. He trained me in the arts of the lightning, and then after 2,000 years I became the lightning angel, heir to the lightning god throne if he passes. Second quarter. After I became the angel, he gave me his dragon powers and I became the god of dragons, so after 1,500 years I became master the powers and learned what to do with them and change into my form. Third quarter. He finally gave me Kurikara and I started training its powers of cosmic, so after 8,000 years of being here my attitude changed. It was more sarcastic, kind of like Percy Jackson, but more laid back, and Julian became more of a father figure to me. The All Might ever was. I already forgave everyone there but still held a little grudge, but I'm fine with my decision, but I still don't want to talk to them or do anything with them, but I'll get there. Meanwhile, after the 3,000 years of the katana were up, I didn't care anymore. Fourth quarter. Father finally gave me his divine elements ability, and he let me call him father after 900 years, so yeah, and I started training. In this time me and dad sparred and he won all the time, but then after 2,000 years I finally got a win, and it went on and on until it was my final day here, but was also my examination. Dad, I guess me kicking your ass is my going away present, I said while smirking. Haha, let me see you try, son. My dad. Nobody's POV. Izuku and Raikon circled each other. That's until they both changed at each other, and their fists met, and they were going so fast it looked like All Might versus the Nomu at the us. Then the amazing their lightning started going off, and they became faster until they backed up and charged again, and boom, right fist met left fist, and the ground shattered. And they both went anger and god form. Seems like I trained a monster, huh, son? Said Raikon. Haha, yeah, if you say so, Dad. Then they started going at each other. In the meantime they were trading blows. Izuku and Raikon went into their other modes: Sound Emperor, Fire King, Crown Prince, and Dragon God, and the blows went harder. Boom, 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 their fists clashed with each other. That's until Raikon got the upper hand with the little boost of the lightning and starting bombarding Izuku with fists, until one solid hit. Crocotham Raikon's divine lightning fist clashes with Izuku's stomach, and he was down. Is that all you got, son? Raikon said, and then Izuku got up shaking. No, not yet. Then his eyes and around the eyes went dark and his irises became pure light. Divine ability. Yin-Yang Drive. He said, and Raikon visibly paled at this. He could wipe out entire continents with that form. Then the ground broke around them, and then it stopped, and he looked up and Izuku vanished and reappeared and backhanded Raikon so hard he went flying. Oh shit, might need to do some about that, he said, and vanished again and reappeared above Raikon and kicked him to the floor as he went down and made Kurikara appear and unsheathed it. Yield? Raikon looked up and laughed. Haha, yeah, I yield. So Izuku powered down, and he was completely fine. He didn't stumble or pass out from exhaustion. He was fine and sheathed Kurikara. Hee, well, I guess this is goodbye, Dad. Raikon looked up and sighed. Yes, son, this is goodbye. They both looked sad. Will I ever see you again? Izuku said with tears in his eyes. Raikon looked at him and smiled. Of course, my son, I will always be with you. Just pray to me and I will come, or just imagine my palace and you are mine, and go to sleep and you'll be here. Izuku smiled and said, Oh, and by the way, Dad, can I use your name as my hero name? Raikon laughed and said, Of course, my son, now you have to go. Izuku looked at his father. Goodbye, Dad, goodbye, son. Then everything went black for Izuku until he woke up in a hospital bed. Oh, you're awake, long nap, kid. About time. Melissa POV. Ugh, when is this package going to get here? I was working on a new design when my father came in. Sweetheart, there's a package from the boy Izuku midoriya, the boy you like. I blushed. Damn, how obvious am I? Then I said, Really? Let me see. I say while he hands me the package, and I open it, and there they are, the notebooks I've been waiting for. I widened my and looked at my dad. Thanks. Dad, can I go to Japan for a little? I need to show these to a friend to clear Deku's name. He looked at me and smiled. Anything for my little pumpkin. So I got ready and packed up and called Bakuho. That's what I call him since he's mean. Ring ring. Hey, what's up? Is it there yet? You haven't told me anything in 4 months. He yelled, but I didn't care. Yeah, I got them. Tell your mom or Deku's mom to come pick me up, I said. All right, tell me when you get here so we can go clear his name, he said. Yeah, I said, then hung up and went to the airport and got on the private jet. Deku, here I come. Time skip. Miss, we're here, my pilot said, so I woke up and thanked her and went to the pickup lane, and there I saw a plump green-haired woman and an ash blonde-haired woman, and they had a sign that said Melissa Shields, so I thought must be Deku's and Bakuho's moms, so I went to them and asked, Hi, I'm Melissa, are you Deku's mom? She looked at me and smiled. Yes, dear, hi, I'm into midoriya. You must be the girl my boy had a crush on before he went out with that round-faced girl. Ugh, that was a mistake. I was surprised he had a crush on me, man. I hope that girl didn't take it away. I hope he still does. Why, yes, MS Midoriya, I'm Melissa Shield. Nice to meet you, I said politely, and shook her hand, and Bakuho's mom said, All right, let's get going. So we agreed and went to the car and went straight to UA. Time skip. No one's POV. After they got there, Melissa went straight to the principal's office, which she knows from being there with her uncle and Deku, and knocked, which to she heard, Come in. And she opened the door, and saw her raise her head with an angered looking at Niza. Oh, hello, Miss Shield. To what do I owe this pleasure? Do I call your uncle? Niza said. Oh, no need, I'm here to prove Deku is innocent. This piqued Eraserhead's interest, and then she continued, These notebooks are his notebooks that contain all the information of the heroes, so why would he need more if he already has all of these? So she gave the notebooks to them and they read them with wide eyes. Outstanding theses notebooks have more information than our school and the hero reports combined. Did he really write those though? She nodded and said, Bakugo Katsuki can testify, sir, he's the one that told me about these. So he nodded at Eraserhead and he left. After a few minutes he came back with the ash blonde firecracker, and Nisa asked, Mr. Bakugo, is it true that Izuku Midoriya wrote all of these? He said, holding one with one hand and gesturing to the rest of the notebooks. Yes, sir, I can testify that Deku did write all of these. Actually, I have one here that I took when we were in middle school. That he lost. Then he pulled out a burned notebook that said 13, the missing one. They all thought, okay, I guess we have enough evidence of him being innocent because we have our own evidence if you come and see this videos. He says, and he showed them a videos of Izuku turning back into the one and only Himiko Toga. So they all nodded and went straight to the airport and flew to Belle Reve. Same time with Izuku. Izuku's POV. Oh, you're awake, long nap, kid, said Amanda Waller. I looked at her and said, how long have I been out? About 4 months, but in my opinion you look better than ever, she said, looking at me up and down. I was confused, so I got up, felt taller, so I looked in the mirror and saw myself, but from the world where my dad lived, so it wasn't a dream. Well, damn, I guess I did change, I said, and then looked at Amanda and said, thank you for taking care of me. She smiled and said, no problem, kid, but you got 4 constant visitors, and let me tell you, when I say every day, I mean every day. I laughed at my friend's antics. May I go see them? She smiled and nodded and took me to the courtyard where I saw my friends sitting down sulking, so I walked up to them and I wanted to scare Croc, so I used my dragon voice. You're in my seat, Wayland. He turned around angry, but when he saw me I smiled. Hi, I said, and all the anger vanished, and he hugged me tight, and so did the others. I tapped out 3x. Guys can't breath. I wheezed out. They laughed and put me down, so Croc said, damn, kid gave us a scare. They're out for 4 months, long time to nap, kid. I laughed and asked, so how y'all been? They all told me they were good until I looked at Slade and said, so the robot did care. And we all laughed when he turned his head away, so we went to eat lunch. I went back to my cell and was about to sleep when the door opened, and I saw the 2 guards that were nice to me and a new guy. To the wall, prisoner. They mouthed prank. I smirked and said, all right, fine as you say. So I walked to the wall, and when he was about to touch me, I turned around, flipped him around, had him in a breakneck position taught to me by my loving father, and said, back away or I swear I'll break his neck. The new guard cried, please, I don't want to die. He cried, and we all started bursting out laughing, and I let him go because I was on the ground in tears and looked shocked. Wait, was this a prank? The guards laughed, and one said, yeah, kid, he's one of the nice ones. I smiled and said, sup, I'm Izuku Midoriya, nice to meet you. He looked at me. Carmine Falcone. Wow, he had one of the names of the most famous gangsters before the Quirk era. Nice name. I said. He smiled and nodded, so he went back, and again I was about to go asleep when I heard one of the guards say, Izuku, to the wall, the warden is here. I nodded and went to the wall. Hey handsome, you got visitors. I blushed and nodded, so they took me while we were walking. Waller said, we got to restrain you, house rules. I shrugged and held out my hands, and they took me there, and what I saw made me slightly angry, but I didn't care. 12,000 years of time does that to you. Hello, Mr. Midoriya, Principal Nisa said. Free and really again, Shigaraki? No one's POV. Hello, Mr. Midoriya, Principal Nisa said, and Izuku just blinked and said, hello, Principal Nizu and Mr. Aizawa, and he looked closely and yelled, Melissa? What are you doing here? Melissa Smiler, and was about to tell him when Nisa intervened. Ms. Shield here actually was the one that proved you innocent along with a certain ash blonde kid, but that doesn't matter at the moment. He looked at Melissa and smiled, which made her blush, and mouthed thank you, and she smiled and nodded. So I'm actually going to be free? He asked Nizu. Yes, to which we would like to greatly apologize on behalf of all of you, and we would like for you to come back, he said. Izuku thought about and said, sure, but with 3 conditions. Nisa nodded and gestured for him to continue. I would like you to reduce the sentences as much as you can of Waylon Jones, Floyd Lawton Diablo, and Slade Wilson. Niza nodded and again gestured for him to continue. I would like for my dorm room to be at least 6 feet wider and 3 feet taller. Niza just shrugged and made him continue. Finally, I would like to visit Island whenever I want. This confused everyone, so Niza asked, "Why would you want that?" Izuku just laughed and nodded his head at Melissa, to which she blushed, and he said, "Well, she's one of the people that believed in me, so I want to be with a friend that's not going to stab me in the back." As he said that, Melissa beamed. Aizawa smiled and Niza felt guilty but nodded. "Is that all?" Niza asked. "Yeah, that's all. Let me say goodbye to my friends and I'll go." They nodded and he went back to Waller. "Can I go back to my friends and say goodbye, and can they come with me to the plane and say goodbye?" Amanda smiled and nodded, so they uncuffed him and they smiled and he walked to his friends. "Hey guys, I got good news and even better news." All of them looked at him and Slade said, "Will kid spit it out?" He laughed and smiled. "Well, the good news is that I'm gonna be free, but you guys get see me off at the airport." They beamed at this and started congratulating him until Croc broke it and said, "What's the better news?" Izuku smiled and said, "Well, I got them to reduce you sentences to about next year." They all beamed at this so bright it looked like sun, and they hugged him harder than before. He tapped ADX and said, "Guys, my heart is going to come out of my mouth, let go." He wheezed. They laughed and let him go, and they went to see him off with Waller, and when he was about to get on the plane, when he said, "I'm gonna miss you all, goodbye my friends," they all smiled and said their goodbyes, and he got on the plane. Izuku's POV. When I got on the plane, I saw everyone there and I smiled and sat down next to Melissa, to which she went red. Weird, I thought. That's until Niza said, "To be honest, Midoriya, I'm surprised you came back to the place that betrayed you." I just shrugged and said, "Well, a wise turtle once said the past is a memory, the future is a mystery, and the present is a gift. That's why it is called a present, so I learned to forgive and forget." I lied because I spent so much time with Dad. I just said bucket because it didn't let me continue with my technique, even if I did them right with something small as a grudge. Things went wrong. Flashback. "Raikon, I can't seem to get progress in my techniques," I said. He looked up and frowned. "Let me see you do a move that I showed you." I do as he told me. I looked up and his look said I knew it, so I asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong with the techniques, it's you." I was a little frightened he'd stopped teaching me, but calmed down when he said, "Something is holding you back. It looks like a grudge with someone." Then I remembered my friends and my stance faltered, so I figured it out. My grudge made me weak so soon. I said, "Ah, to hell with it, I forgive them." And then I did the stance. It worked. I looked up at Raikon, and he looked proud, so from then on I let go of my grudge with them. Flashback end. "So Deku, what are you going?" She was cut off by Niza's phone alarm going off. He looked up mortified. "Yue is being attacked by the League of Villains and have many nomas with them that look as strong as All Might." Melissa and Aizawa looked mortified while I just smirked and walked to the door and opened it and said, "Be back in a flash." And I used my lightning travel to get there while closing the door, and I was off. All Might POV. ACK. I yelled as I got punched by a Noma straight in the gut. Then came another Noma, and I tried to punch it, but he just blocked it and hit back. I went flying. "Ahahahaha, don't bother, those Nomas are all as strong as the one at the Ust, and they're smarter. Ahahaha, how does it feel that you failed your successor, All Might?" "No. Yes, we framed him so he can get out of the way. Now say goodbye, All Might." At the same time, all the Nomas went at me. "I'm sorry I have failed you all. I'm sorry, young ones. I'm sorry, the people. I'm sorry, my friends, and I'm sorry, Izuku, for not believing in you." No one's POV. Everyone watched mortified as they were about to see the number one hero, the symbol of hope, about to die. Then they heard it. Crocotham, a light bolt landed and launched the Nomus across the school, and when the dust cleared out, there stood in all his glory the green-haired, green-eyed boy. "I've been gone for 7 months, and you go and get yourself into this shit," he said. "You," All Might said. "And oh," Shigaraki yelled out. "Welcome back." Bakugo starts. Izuku smirks. "Izuku. This'll be fun." Nobody's POV. "So Shigaraki, how's it been? By the way, you need chapstick," said Izuku. Shigaraki stood there in horror but got over it and said, How'd you get out of prison?" Izuku just laughed. This made him scared. "I was cleared innocent, you dumbass." Shigaraki was shaking in anger but then smirked. "No matter, you won't ever defeat me. These Nomas are as Strong as All Might, and you won't be able to do anything, then I will rule all of the world, ah ha 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 ha. Then he saw him, his hair covering his eyes with his head down. What cat got your tongue? He didn't respond. Hey. Izuku jolted up. I must have fallen asleep, my bad. That's it, Shigaraki snapped. Nomus at him, and the Nomus all charged at him, but Izuku pulled out a sword and he vanished. He reappeared outside the line of fire and all the Nomus started yelling out in pain, Ryu. And they all dropped. Some more Nomus went at him and boom, everyone stood there mortified and Shigaraki smirked, but when the dust cleared there stood Izuku smiling with blue electricity coming off of him. Ah, my turn. Then he backhanded them and they went flying. Then he unsheathed his sword again out of nowhere and vanished. Then all the Nomus body parts dropped. Then he reappeared and smirked. Is that all you got, chaplips? Shigaraki yelled. No, you cheated, you used hacks no Kurojiri, bring the master. The black misty guy nodded, then disappeared and a portal opened and then came out the person whose head looked like a potato. All for one. All Might yelled at the potato head, now known as All for One or AFO. I am looking great, and you must be Izuku Midoriya, the person that made Shigaraki bring me here. Izuku looked at him weirdly. He looks like a potato, he thought, and said, So you're AFO, but why do you look like Mr. Potato Head with a suit? AFO shook in fury. How dare he call me a potato? I am not a potato boy, I'm the world's greatest villain. Izuku just laughed at how much he looks like a potato. Welp, I'm tired, let's get this over with, so he said. Static void. With his hands out and time stopped, so as fast as light he put AFO and anti-quirk restraints and knocked everyone out and restrained, then restarted time. So AFO, any last words before you go to prison? Then everyone realized AFO was in restraints, so was everybody from the LOV. But they were knocked out. W what? H how? I impossible. He tried to get out but couldn't, so he finally stopped. Hee, a little gift for y'all heroes. Izuku said to everyone, then turned and said, Yo. With a hand wave. What are you doing here, traitor? Mina said. Izuku just rolled his eyes and said, Healing flame of the phoenix. The flames erupted from him and everyone was healed, even All Might old wound. Well, that's done, S. Then Uraraka said, Get out of here, you traitor, we don't want you here. Izuku just sighed. I'll just let Nizu explain. Then he was gone in a bolt of lighting Crocotham, and to the sky he went. They were all staring in awe until Bakugo broke the silence and said, You guys are bucked. Everyone turned to him, confused. He was cleared innocent today by me and Melissa Shield, which I'm guessing is going to be Deka's new girlfriend, but whatever, so yeah, he was cleared. And didn't you hear, Shigaraki, they framed him, so you all are bucked, because if he had the power to do that, imagine the power he gets when he's mad. Everyone was about to doubt him when a plane landed. Everyone looked to, and out came four silhouettes: Principal Nizu, Mr. Aizawa, Melissa Shield, and last but not least Izuku the Midoriya, the one they just saw fighting. Everyone was starstruck to comprehend what's happening. As Bakugo was saying, Mr. Midoriya has been proven innocent and will be back at UA. Everyone stood there not doing anything, and the guilt hit them, mostly AM and Uraraka, since he was his father figure and she was his girlfriend. That's until he said, Don't worry, I forgive you all, I really don't care anymore, but I won't hang out with any of you except Bakugo, Momo, Tsu, and the one lovely girl beside Melissa. He smiled, oblivious to the fact of what he just said that made Melissa go the color of Kirishima's hair. This also made everyone that he mentioned happy, but also made a very sad group and a very jealous and angry Uraraka. So let's go back in. Then he looked at the school and made a face of then he said, Divine ability light side. Creation. Then he snapped his fingers and all went back to normal. He went to Bakugo and gave him a bro hug. Thanks for believing in me, Kat-chan, Izuku said. No problem, you useless Deku. They both laughed at that, and then he went to Tsu and Momo and hugged them and said, Thank you both for believing in me too. They both blushed but hugged back. This made both Melissa and Uraraka very jealous, but Melissa calmed down when he went to Melissa, and instead of hugging her normally, he picked her up and started spinning her around, saying thank you over and over again while she was giggling. This made all the girls jealous because now he was ripped and had the face of an angel but the body of a god, so everyone wanted a piece of the Deku, so they were all jealous. When he put her down, he said, Thank you, without you I would have been in there forever. He hugged her once more. Okay, now that that's settled, let's get you sorted, Midoriya and an MS shield. Izuku was confused, then he turned to Melissa. She laughed awkwardly. Yeah, about that they said since I don't have a place to stay you're going to have to share your room with me. Izuku blushed crimson and everyone laughed at that, and so they went back to the dormitories. Izuku was sitting there chatting with Melissa, then suddenly everyone came and said, "We're sorry Deku Midoriya, please forgive us." But what surprised everyone is that he laughed, and he looked at Melissa then winked, and she understood he was about to prank them hard. "Oh really, you think that just a simple sorry will make forgive you all for what? You think that will make forget what you did to me?" Everyone was scared, Bakugo and Melissa just smirked, and then he said, "Then yeah, I forgive you." Melissa and Bakugo just bursted out laughing. HHHHH? Everyone yelled. Momo and Tsu were on Midoriya's side. "What did you hear me before I forgive you all?" Everyone sighed, thinking they got their friend back, and Uraraka gained hope of getting her BF back, but the next thing shook them to their core. "Oh, don't get me wrong, I forgive you and forgot what you did, but I don't want to be close to any of you anymore since you all are fake." Everyone was surprised but sad until Lita said, "Can we at least try?" Izuku thought about it, and then sighed. "Sure, but it's going to take a while, so yeah." Everyone was happy, thinking they were going to try their best. Uraraka was going to say something about how she wanted to talk, but Izuku then said, John, I'm tired, I'ma go to sleep." Then he left but turned back to Melissa. "You coming? I mean, it's your room too for now." He said. She blushed crimson and went with him. Uraraka's POV. "Ugh, that Hitch is trying to take my man, but that won't happen. I will get my Deku-kun back and no one will stop me." Momo's POV. "That lucky Hitch, she gets to sleep in Midori's room while I'm not letting her take him away from me. Uraraka is probably thinking the same thing. I'm not letting her, it's my turn." Tsu's POV. "OMG, why does she get to sleep with him? I mean, yes, she cleared him, but I believed in him. I will get him all to myself." Melissa's POV. "OMG, I'm actually going sleep with him. Probably not, but it's the same room." He then opened the room and he looked mortified. "God damn, this is too much." So vanished, the reappeared, and all the stuff was redecorated, and the room was expanded. I looked out the window, and we were higher than normal, so I asked him, Deku, how did the room get bigger? And why are we higher?" He looked at me and said, "Oh right, I told Niza to make my room bigger while I stopped time, and he gave me the key to this room, so packed everything up in my room and then brought you here and made new decorations." I nodded and went to the couch and pulled out the all-night blanket. He looked at me weird. "What are you doing?" "You're not sleeping there, you miss are sleeping on the bed, I'll be on the couch." I looked at him and sighed because he had a look of determination, so I just got up and laid down. He tucked me into which I blushed and kissed my forehead, and I went crimson, and he went back to the couch and fell asleep. I couldn't sleep at all that night, so I got up and said, "Hey Deku." He just responded with a groan. "I can't sleep, CCANNYOOUSSLEEP on the bed with me." I hurried the last part. He just sighed. I don't think he was even thinking, and got up, and I scooted over to which he laid down, and he embraced me in his arms. I blushed hard, steam came out my ears, but I finally fell asleep. I too. The darkness. The goodbye. Izuku's POV. I woke up groggily to the sunlight, so when I tried to get it I felt something heavy in my arms and chest, so I looked down, and saw something that made me go crimson. Melissa? How the hell did this happen? Wasn't I on the couch last night? I stood there for about 5 minutes, not wanting to wake her up, until she started to stir, and she woke up. "H-hi-m-m-l-e-s-a-h-ho-o-d-y-u-s sleep," I said, still blushing. Then she looked up with her gorgeous blue eyes and flowing blonde that looks perfect on her. She just looked amazing. "Oh hey Deku, I slept great, to be honest." Then she saw what position she was in, and went crimson as well. "B-by-T the W-A-C, can you tell me how'd I get here? Wasn't I on the couch?" "Not that I mind," I said fast at the end so I didn't stutter, and also thought she looked at me and said, "Oh, why you don't I remember I asked you if you see can come as sleep W with me, so you just got up and came here." "Ah crap, my sleep compliance, I remember when I found that out." Flashback. "Hey Raikon, I'ma go to sleep, K?" I said after training because I was exhausted. Raikon looked up and said, "No problem, kid, sleep well." So I went to my room and fell asleep. When I woke up I was hanging upside down with rope tied up all around me, and Raikon looking tired. I was confused and asked, Raikon, can you tell me why I'm tied up and why you look like shit?" He looked up exhausted and sighed. "You don't remember, kid, it was morning and I told you to get up and train, so you did, but for THRE bucking days straight. So when I went to pin you down, you fought me for 2 hours straight. I kept knocking you down, but since you looked asleep and probably still was, you kept on fighting me until I was getting tired, so I tied you up in godly rope and chained you up. He said with a blank look, and I was in disbelief. How'd and why'd I do that? On the plus side, you went up 3 stages of power. Bad news is you don't remember it, so better take it slow, kid. I still looked in disbelief, then remembered this happened before, so I asked him to knock me out and tell me what to do and keep giving me orders until he had enough. He looked at me weird, so he did, and I blacked out. The next thing I know, I'm in my bed more tired than ever and didn't want to get up, but I knew I had to for the results, so I went to Raikon so I could ask what the hell happened and why I felt so tired. So I saw him and went up to him. Hey Raikon, can you tell me what the hell happened? He looked at me happier than before, but tried so hard to keep the serious look. Oh, nothing. Made you clean the whole temple, and you did for another 2 days, and you made me food as well. It was cool, but I grew tired of it. But the temple is clean, he said with a shrug. Then it clicked. I do whatever anyone wants in my sleep. Raikon, I think I may have a sleep compliance whenever someone asks me to do some in my sleep. He looked at me with a blank face. Yeah, no kidding. He deadpanned. I laughed and went to go train. Flashback end. Deku. Melissa screamed, which brought me back to reality. My bad, I was in thought. Yeah, no kidding. She muttered, but I laughed at it and confessed the sleep compliance part. Hey, about that thing I did last night, I kind of have a sleep compliance thing, which means I do whatever anyone wants in your sleep. She finished. I scratched the back of my neck awkwardly. Yeah, I found out in prison, so please don't tell anyone, I said, hopefully thinking she would blackmail me, but she just smiled and said, Of course, Deku. I thanked her, but then her smile went to an evil smirk. But doesn't mean I get to use it myself. I sighed and shrugged and said, If you want me to do something like that, all you have to do. I then went to her ear and whispered, slightly touching her ear. Was asked. She went blood red and passed out. I blinked. I then looked at her and started shaking her and said, Melissa, wake up, Melissa. I yelled and she got up. Sorry, she said awkwardly. I laughed a genuine smile and said, Don't worry about it, but when are you leaving? I asked. She looked at me and frowned. But you don't want me here, she said with a cocked eyebrow but disappointed look. I just laughed and said, No. She looked sad at that, but then I continued, I want you here with me all the time, I said, grabbing her hand. She went crimson but smiled and playfully hit me. And I want you with me, you dork. I laughed but then blushed. Like you could now say it out loud, you coward, I said. Thought she got curious and said, You what, Deku? I sighed and swallowed my fear, pulled my balls out of my throat and said, I like you, Melissa. She looked at me shocked but then kissed me. I was shocked but melted into it. We made out for a while until we pulled apart. I like you too, Deku. She smiled, then I pulled my balls deeper out of my throat and said, would why you be my girlfriend? I asked. She looked shocked and didn't respond. That hurt. It's fine, you don't have tea. Then she kissed me again and said, I would love to, Deku. I smiled. I haven't been this happy since before they declared me Quirkless and before my dad left, so we kissed again. So seriously, when are you leaving? Cause I don't want you gone at the moment, or at all, to be honest. She looked at me and asked, When's today? I don't know, I checked my phone. April 12th. She frowned and groaned. Ugh, I have to leave today. I laughed at my girlfriend's antics and I said, It's fine, I'll just go see you in a week. Okay, I have to get settled in the IMA. Go see you then after 2 weeks there. IMA come back, K? I said. She seemed happy with this and said, Yes, wait, will they allow you to do that? He smiled. Yeah, remember that was one of my conditions, baby girl, he said, putting his head to hers. Baby girl? I've never heard it before. Well, once, but that was from a student from America saying it to a girl, and that's it? She said, confused. I laughed at her confusion. Yeah, haha, I got that from my mentor. I got most of my skills and power and traits from him. I became more forgetting and forgiving person after him. She gave me a funny look, but I just waved her off and said, I'll tell you later on. Island, don't trust the people here, I said, smiling. She just nodded numbly, and we got ready to go to the airport, so I helped her pack. We got ready and left for the car. No one's POV. When they got to where the car was, there stood Principal Nizu and AM Solito form waiting for them, but they had a sort of guilt. But when they Izuku and Melissa T going hand in hand and talking normally, they were confused, so when they got there Izuku just smiled. Yeah, about that we just became boyfriend and girlfriend this morning, he said smiling, but rubbing the back of his neck awkwardly while Melissa was blushing madly and Nisa smiled. No problem, young midoriya, and I'm sorry for not believing in you, said Solito Mike, thinking he would yell at him, but Izuku just smiled warmly. No problem, it was real hard evidence. It was even hard for me to think I didn't do it, but everything's forgiven. I let go of it a while back, like a wise turtle once said. The past is a memory, the future is a mystery, and the present is a gift. That's why it is called the present, so everything forgiven, my friend, he said smiling. Smiled, hoping he might take one for all back, but he'll just ask later. Right now he's happy for the two. Okay kids, on to the car. They smiled and got in the car. While they were driving, Melissa and Izuku kept talking while and Nizu were sitting there smiling but still feeling guilty and nervous. Mostly All Might, he still doesn't feel like he should be forgiven and nervous because of his choice for one for all. Time skip. Izuku's POV. When we finally arrived, we got off the car, we saw Mr. Shield and went to the airplane, and All Might and Melissa said their goodbyes until it came to me and Melissa. You know I miss my favorite gal, I said, interlacing our fingers. She smiled. And I'm going to miss my favorite gentleman, she said, still smiling. Then she pouted. But I'm not going to see you for a long time. What if those skanks get to you? She whispered that last part. One smiled. You know I only have eyes for you, and even if they try to get with me or confess, I will just turn them down because I have my one and only, I said. She smiled and kissed, so I kissed back, but we had to break it up when Mr. Shield said, All right, love. Birds, break it up, save it for next week. We poured but gave in, so we said goodbye, and I was about to leave when Mr. Shield said, You know, midoriya, I always knew you and my daughter were one. I went crimson at that, and he just left. I laughed and saw the airplane go. Young midoriya, I would like to ask you. I peeked up at this. Would you take one for all back? I smiled. I knew he would ask, but I didn't want it. It was Mirio's because he was the first choice and I was the backup, but he still chose me, so I went with it, but he was the real choice. I'm sorry, All Might, but I can't take it. Mirio was the first choice, not me, so please give it to him, and before you ask, I already have enough power for my own to be at UA and become a hero, but I want one thing. AM looked disappointed but happy that he was happy as well, so he asked, And that is, young midoriya? I smiled and said, I want my hero name changed. Nisa perked up at this, so he asked, And what would that be, Mr. Midoriya? I smiled. Raikon. Back to school and mom. No one's POV. Izuku woke up happy that he got a new girlfriend and changed his hero name to his father's name, so he was about to get up when he remembered he hasn't seen his mom, so quickly he got ready and ran out the building, not using his lightning, light, dragon or star speed. He just used his regular speed, which was a speed that can rival All Might's, and in a second he was at his mom's door. He was nervous but swallowed it, and he knocked. Knock. 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 He was waiting until someone answered. Yes, who is I? Then she stopped. Izuku? Is that you? Inko said with tears in her eyes. Yeah, Mom, it's me, Izuku said, smiling but with tears in his eyes. My baby, Inko yelled, and she hugged Izuku and he hugged back. They stood there crying for about 4 minutes until they broke apart. Come in, she said, with tears still in her eyes, so he went in and talked for a while about how it was going normally until he mentioned Melissa, and his mom perked up at this and asked, Oh, Melissa, the one you had a crush on before Bubbles the boar? Izuku went crimson at this but laughed at that last part. Yeah, about that, Mom, she's kind of, he mumbled. That last part which she didn't hear, so she asked, what was that, honey? Say it again. He sighed. He knew this would happen, but bucket. She's my girlfriend now, Mom, he said, and his mom burst into tears of happiness. Yes, I get to have grandbabies soon and not to some bore. Izuku went crimson but again laughed at what his mom said about Uraraka. Then he looked at the time and realized he still hasn't gone to Nisa for the clearance to be in class, so he sighed. Well, I have to go, Mom. It was good seeing you, he said. His mom smiled and said, You too, honey, go kick some butt for me. He smiled and laughed at this and left the house. Not before putting a curse of the lightning angel first, though. Whoever tries and come near this house with intent to harm shall be struck down and charred by tribulations and shall be eaten by fire, not to even be recognized. Izuku cursed and left his house, and lightning traveled to UA. I forgot to mention lightning travel is him basically summoning a lightning bolt, and it taking him and striking wherever he wants to land, and landed at the door and passed through Tanisa's office, but he decided to scare him, so he used his dragon scales to go invisible and went behind Nisa. "Hy Nisa, I need to get reassigned, remember?" he said behind him. Nisa jumped 20 feet up in the air. Midoriya, you gave me a heart attack there. Deku just laughed hard. He was on the ground in tears laughing. Then Nisa got annoyed but knew that if he was on the other side of the joke he would be laughing too and sighed, so he said, "Yeah, Mr. Midoriya, we got everything settled, so just go to class and be careful. I've heard that there are some girls that are interested in you, so when they find out that you have a girlfriend they're going to flip, so be careful, okay?" Izuku nodded and went to class, and he got lost. What, he hasn't been here in 12,000 years, so it's not his fault. Finally he got there and opened the door. Mr. Aizawa was taking lessons and everyone was paying attention, and they stopped when the door opened and they saw who it was. Mr. Aizawa smiled and said, "Problem child, good to have you back, take a seat." Izuku smiled, then went to the seat which was in the behind Momo, on the side of Tsu besides Uraraka and in front of Jiro, so he went to sit down and the class went on. Momo's POV. We were listening to Mr. Aizawa talking when the door suddenly flew open and there stood a certain green-haired hottie. "Problem child, good to have you back, please take a seat." He smiled that made my heart skip like 20 beats. Damn, that should be illegal. And went to the seat behind, and I blushed. I knew everyone else was thinking the same thing, but get away from my man. Ajri's POV. I wasn't paying attention thinking about Midoriya when suddenly I heard, "I'll good to have you back, take a seat." I looked up and a certain greenite stood there, and then he went and sat next to me. I was blushing hard because he was so close. Now I hope no one else is thinking the same thing, especially Achiko-chan. Get away from my man. Uraraka's POV. Yes, Deku-kun gets to sit by me. Oh, I just hope he takes me back and not that blonde hitch that was with him yesterday, or that black-haired bimbo, or that frog hitch. I just hope they stay in their place, because stay away from my man. Izuku's POV. I wonder what Melissa's doing, I thought while listening to the lesson. God, I am so in love with her, I can't seem to get her out of my head. But anyways, as the class was going on, the door opened, and out came Minoma and Testo. I was confused to why they were here until Mr. Aizawa asked my question. "Why are you here, students from Class 1B? Then they turned to me. "You," they said together. "Me?" I said, confused as to why they want me. "We challenge you to a fight one-on-one, do you accept?" Then they looked at each other and started fighting for who was first, and that's when Mr. Aizawa rapped them and looked at me if I wanted to do this, and I just shrugged and said, "Sure, but I'm not paying for the hospital bill." Then they smirked evilly. "How about 2-on-1 us against you since it's a 1A student?" I didn't care, I was bored. "Sure, why not, I don't care." They smirked and Aizawa nodded and took us to the gym gamma. When we got there we changed and went to the fight. I looked at them and cocked a brow. They were wearing their hero suits. "Do I need my hero suit or not?" I said. He kept his hero suit but made some adjustments to it because he was too lazy to change it. They shrugged, so I did too and got in a stance, and Mr. Aizawa said, "No killing, no maiming allowed, powers yes Heijime." So they charged at me with their steel bodies because Minoma touched Testa, but anyways they were charging, so I waited until Testa threw a punch, and I used a technique my dad taught me called Aikido, and used his momentum to throw him out of the ring, then just tapped Minoma lightly. He fell to the ground, so I picked him up and threw him out the ring, and I was done, so I dusted my hands and was about to leave when every guy but Kachan wanted a duel against me. Aizawa looked at me, but I shrugged it off and then said it was okay, and so the duel started. Time skip. No one's POV. After the battles were over, the guys were on the floor from bot Class A and B, and the girls, both Class A and B plus Bakugo, were giggling, laughing, smirking. Bakugo and then also Izuku just smiled, which made all the girls blush, and he didn't even know what the duels were for, so he went to Minoma and asked, "Why did you want to fight me again?" Minoma just shifted awkwardly. "Because big sister Kendo." He mumbled something that Izuku didn't hear. "I'm sorry, what was that I didn't hear?" Minoma grumbled but swallowed. "Because Kendo is way too interested in you these days," he said, thinking Izuku was gonna laugh at him because of it, so he did, which made Minoma angry. "Why are you laughing?" This caught everyone's attention, but Izuku just waved him off. "No, it's not because of you, it's the irony. Don't worry, I won't go for her, I have a girlfriend." he said, to which none of the girls heard, which is a good thing because they would have been furious and hanged up on him. Oh, okay, then I'm sorry for making a scene, Monoma said. Izuku smiled and said, no problem, actually I'm glad you did, I was getting bored. They both smiled as said there, and so the day went on with school, and Izuku went to his dorm thinking all the way about Melissa and fell asleep thinking about her. Wow, I am actually in love with her, he thought. Same time, different place. Melissa went to school all throughout the day. Her mind laid on Izuku and couldn't stop, and she went on with her day, and she fell asleep that day not before thinking. Wow, I'm actually in love with him. Island and jealousy? Izuku's POV. It's been a week since Melissa left, and today I can go see her, and I am so happy. I've missed my girlfriend so much. Girls have been trying to get me to go to places with them for some reason, but I declined. I'm not doing anything with girls but my girlfriend, that's it. I'm in class, and the day is about to end, and I'm exited. Me and my mom and AM are going straight to the airport after school. Turns out my mom and him were dating before, so when she found out I forgave him, she forgave him too, so they got back together, and I'm happy for that. So I'm sitting in class listening and taking notes until the bell rang brilliantly, and I was getting ready and I left to go meet up with AM, and then go to my mom's and then to the airport. Knock. 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 AM answered and said, my boy, you ready? I nodded and he went buff form and we ran to my mom's house. When we knocked, my mom opened. Oh hey baby, hey Yagi, ready to go? We nodded and we got going and we got to the car and I fell asleep. Time skip. When I woke up we were on the airplane. Did you carry me in? I said. AM looked up and said, didn't you get up by yourself? I groaned. Ugh, damn sleep compliance. I mumbled. He got a confused look. Don't ask. He laughed. After a few hours we finally got to Island. It was a long flight, and we finally got there, and there in the hangar, and there I saw my beautiful girlfriend, her gorgeous blonde hair and sea blue eyes that memorized me. We got out, and in a sec she was in my arms and I was spinning her around. She was giggling while I was laughing. Alright lovebirds, break it up. I looked up to Mr. Shield, and a very disturbed and angry guy. Hi Mr. Shield, how you been? He smiled. I've been good, midoriya, thanks for asking. Melissa has been talking about you all week and how much she misses you. I looked to Melissa and found out she was crimson red. I laughed and kissed her. I miss you too, baby girl, I said while smiling. She smiled and kissed me again. When I turned back to Mr. Shield, I saw him trying to calm down a person that has the same aura as an angel. How dare you touch her? He said with fire in his eyes. I looked at him weird and Melissa yelled, yes, my boyfriend, stop acting like you own me. Which made him more mad, so he spread fire wings. So he is a fire angel, I said. He just smirked and attacked me. AM went buff form to try and protect me, but I just stood there, and in a second I vanished and appeared below him and kicked up straight up, and he went flying. I'll be back, babe, just a little retard to take care of. She was about to protest when I spread my wings and went into my lightning angel mode, which surprised her, and I flew up and saw him coming back down mad, so we flew at each other. Boom, our fists clashed. I flew back, so did he, but I wasn't phased, but he was scorched and battered up. Who are you? And how dare you anger me? I'm Phoebus, the angel of fire and prince of air. How dare you challenge me? I laughed at his titles. Only one title was on par with mine, but even so my level is still a bit higher. His element is a sub-element of mine. What are you laughing at? I laughed yet again. My pupils went gold and my scales and claws came out. My lightning wings turned into lightning dragon wings. I am Izuku, midoriya, god of dragons, archangel of lightning, emperor of sound, king of fire, crown prince of energy, wielder of the divine weapon Kurikara, I said, pulling Kurikara out, the sword of cosmic, holder of the divine ability darkness and light. I am the next Raikon, I said with all my elements around me. The white part of my eyes went another color. My right went brighter and my left went dark. While saying my titles he went paler and paper, but then went cocky. No matter, I got a thing for you, Hellflame, flame extrusion, he said. Then he threw a flame wall at me, so I just said, divine weapon. My sword began to glow, cosmic slash, and I slashed at him, and a wave of my slash cut his flame and went to him and sent him across and into the ocean. So he was there in a second and caught him. The guy was still conscious, so he whispered in his ear, remember, I barely even attacked you, so you even try to touch Melissa or my family, I will kill you. Got it? He just nodded scarlet, and then I said, good, and he passed out, so I went back and saw Melissa and everyone there, so I powered down and put him down. Wow, thank you for doing. He kept fancying how powerful he is and that he should marry my daughter, but I couldn't help but not refuse because we couldn't do anything. Oh, that won't happen, will it? I said to him. He woke up when they got there. He nodded, scared for his life. Good choice now, Melissa, I said, turning to my girlfriend, and dropped the femur guy and went up to her and kissed her. Time to make up for lost time, so we went and settled in, and me and Melissa decided to leave and do our own thing. We went and had the whole day together. It was perfect. Next day at UA. No one's POV. Today everyone was sitting in class paying attention to Mr. Aizawa, and every girl was wondering where Deku was. That's until Yayorozu raised her hand. Yes, Ms. Yayorozu, what is your question? Mr. Aizawa asked. Where is Midoriya, sir? Oh, he's at Island with his girlfriend, All Might's niece. I think her name was Melissa. Every girl's heart shattered at what he said, but was quickly replaced with anger and jealousy and sadness. Okay. Then Mineta heard what he said. Midoriya, you bastard, how can you grope Melissa's privates and not me? He said while crying tears of blood. Then the class heard Bakugo yell, hell yeah, and then turned to Todoroki and Kirishima. Pay up half and shitty hair, he said, and both Kirishima and Todoroki sked and gave Bakugo 5,000 yen bills each. What was that about? Asked a very heartbroken Nina. Oh, I bet half and half 5,000 yen that Deku was going to choose Blondie instead of Ponytail or Frog Face, and I won, haha. He was celebrating while Todoroki was grumbling and Kirishima was sulking. Wait, why UK knew WEL liked him and you didn't tell US that he liked her? All the girls said. Midoriya, you bastard, said Mineta while crying. Then class ended and Momo called all the girls to come to her. Hey, who wants to break up Midoriya and Melissa and make him ours? She said evilly. They all nodded with an excitement and went to their next class. By the time they went to lunch, the whole school knew about Izuku and Melissa, and all the girls from 1B Hasjum and Nijire's hearts broke at that. Then they heard the class 1A girls trying to break them up, and they went up and said, "We want in." All of them said, wanting Deku for themselves. Sure, why not, let's share him all together, Momo said, and all of them agreed. Okay, I think I have a way to get there, and on the way there let's try and find a way to break them up. To what they didn't know was that all the school's boys except Bakugo, Kirishima, Todoroki, and were now pissed that all the girls from 1A 1B, the hottest from the support ED and the hottest in the school, all wanted one boy, and that boy already has a girlfriend and she's not even from the same school, so they got into agreement that when Midoriya gets back he will receive an ass whooping. So how do we go then? We go by private jet, of course, Momo said casually, and all their jaws dropped at how casual she spoke about private jets, so they decided that the next day they would ask Principal Nizu if they can go to Island tomorrow. Time skip. That day when Nizu cleared it, and called David Shield about it, and he said sure, why not. So how are Izuku and Melissa? I just hope they can survive all the girls, because it seems they all are angry at him, and want to split them up. David laughed. Oh, I'm sure they will, because Izuku just kicked a guy's ass that could go one-on-one with All Might with just 3 blows, and he's been teaching her something, and it looks like he's been teaching her something, and she can now control some sort of white fire that can burn basically anything, and I'm not sure how she'll take that. All those girls want her boyfriend for all of them, and I sure as hell know she doesn't want to share him, nor does he want to be shared. David said at the word of Izuku beat someone with 3 strikes that can go one-on-one against All Might. Nizu paled. He didn't know he was that strong. Let's just hope nothing goes wrong and the girls don't mess with him. David agreed, and they hang up. God, I hope nothing happens, both of them say. Never going to happen, girls. Melissa's POV. I woke up in my Zuzu's arm. It's been an awesome week since he got here. Fun all day and a few dirty times at night. Those nights were the best. The first time was both of our first times, so we had to get the hang of it, but he was amazing. He's also been teaching the technique God Fire, and I just became the Fire Queen. I still can't beat him in power, but no one in the near future can go against me because of him and me. Anyways, as he started to stir up, his eyes popped open. Hey babe, he said with a kiss. How'd you sleep? He said while smiling, which made my heart skip a beat. That smile should really be illegal. I smiled as well and said, very good, I finally get to rest from you putting me through hell after I asked you to train me. He laughed a pure laugh. Hey, if I went through hell to get power, you do too. he said, and I pouted. He just made a scrunchy face, and I laughed, and he smiled. So we were about to get up when my dad barged in and closed the door, and something started banging on the door, and he was holding it back. Dad. What's happening? I asked him. Well, there's at least 20 girls trying to get at you and Izuku right now. I looked at my boyfriend confused and mad about what he's been doing, but the anger disappeared when I saw he was as confused as I was, but it completely vanished when he said, Why? Confused, he said it confused, so I was happy, and my dad said, Turns out they all want my daughter dead, and you to have a harem with them. I looked at Izuku hoping he didn't, but what he said shattered my doubts about him. No, wait here, I'll go tell them to leave us alone, okay? He said, looking at me. I nodded, so he went to the door, and he changed his voice to his dragon voice, which is scary, may I add. What do you all want? All the girls shivered at his voice. We want her dead, and you with us, Zuzu. He was about to speak until I went fully ballistic and went into my godly flamed queen mode. Get away from my boyfriend, you sluts. They looked at me in fear. My dad was surprised at my outburst and language, but Zuka looked proud of me. WERNNSSC car red of FYU hitch. A girl with a bob cut and chestnut hair and a permanent blush. I laughed at her stutter. Then why the stutter? I said, forgetting that the my flames, that's until Zuka came from behind me and then hugged me from behind, and I powered down. Calm down, baby girl, calm down. I only want you, okay? I smiled and turned around and kissed him, and he kissed back. You be. Then the door slammed closed. Told you I only want you. The door blew open and he grabbed me, spread his wings, and flew out window to my lab, where we landed, and a breath of air out. Well, that happened. Ugh, it's going to be a pain when I go back to school, he said while groaning. I laughed. Hey, it'll be fine, we'll get through this. But you better not do what my dad said they want you to do, I said in a threatening tone. He laughed, and I pouted. Of course not. If I'm disloyal, then you're stupid, and we both know that's not true because look at your lab, he said while smiling. God, that smile, so I just sighed. So what did you do to get all of them to like you? I said while teasing him. He cringed and groaned. For being me and getting new power and getting taller and buffer, that's what made them want me back, mostly my exes. I looked at him confused. Ugh, Uraraka. Jiro and Ibara, the last two, were secret only then, and Kachan knew about it, he said in a nervous tone, but I just smiled and kissed him well. Don't worry, no one is coming between us. Of course not. If they did, I'd kill them. Haha, I would too. We both laughed and went with our day hiding in the lab, building new stuff and talking about heroes. Then I finally decided to ask him what his hero name was going to be. Zuku, what is your new hero name, since I know you're going to change Deku, since you said you were going to change it since the last one sounds weird? He smiled and said, Well, I'm going to name it after my father. I looked at him weird, and I guess he saw it, and I continued. Who's your father? He chuckled and I pouted. Then he laughed and said, Me and my mentor built a father-son relationship, so we call each other that, and well, I'm using his name to honor him. I smiled and said, Raikon. He smiled and nodded. I mean, it's a great name, and it's honoring his dad, so I think it's cute and cool. I said to him honestly. He smiled and kissed, so we went one with our day until it was night time, so we couldn't go back to my room, so we slept on the couch in my lab. It was a retractable bed, so no biggie, and we fell asleep. Time skipped to next week. No one's POV. Today was the day that Izuku left. All the girls left after the day they came, so it was good as they were saying their goodbyes when Izuku gave her a rune thing that had a dragon, and one that had a lightning. Babe, what are these for? Melissa said. Izuku smiled and said, That one can summon me through lightning, and I'll be here in a second. You can use it whenever you want, and it also shoots lightning if you act like you're throwing it, and keep it in your hand as you throw it, he said, pointing at the lightning rune. And this one call forward a dragon that keeps you safe. You might want to use it after I leave and in a closed space like your lab where no one bothers, because if it sees another person it might be torn between two people and you're gonna have a harder time, okay? Izuku said while smiling at her, which made her heart flutter again. That smile should be illegal, she thought. Then she nodded in response, and they kissed for about 10 minutes until his mom decided to break it up. Okay kids, yes, I want grandbabies, but let's go. They both went Crimson at that but laughed. They got used to his mom's antics, and they said goodbye, said their I love yous and left. After that Melissa went straight to her lab and started hatching the rune egg and texting Izuku the progress. They talked the whole way and finally they got home and the day concluded and both of them went to sleep thinking, God, I love him, her. They both thought at the same time. Back to school again. Izuku's POV. I woke up today at 6 a.m. feeling great, and my first thought was Melissa. God, I love her. I think she is my soulmate. So I texted her good morning, and she didn't text back, which means that she's still asleep. So I got up and took a shower, changed into my uniform, and went for a run. It honestly took about 5 minutes to do a 5K, but it was fun because I got to feel the morning fresh air. Then I went back to my dorm, changed and showered, packed my school bag, and went to school. Time skip. When I got to school, everyone at the entrance stopped and looked at me. That's not creepy at all, I thought in a sarcastic way, but anyways I walked to class, still everyone staring at me. I feel a bit violated right now, I thought with a shiver, and as soon as I got into class everyone stopped again and stared. Take a picture, it'll last longer, I said with sarcasm basically dripping from my voice. They nodded and pulled out their phones. Why did I know this was going to happen? It was sarcasm, ya morons, I said as I sat down. This time both boys and girls glared except Kachan, which was weird. He was the first one to glare at me always, so I had enough. Okay, enough is enough. What the buck do you all want? Either say it or stop glaring. I'm getting tired of people bucking staring, I said with anger in my voice. They were scared and stopped staring finbuckingly. I thought annoyed. Then Mr. Aizawa walked and looked at me. I'll problem child, good to have you back. How was Island? He said. All the girls glared his way at that question. It was great. Melissa and I spent the whole time together. While All Might be my new stepdad, I think it was pretty cool when my girlfriend and I got attacked by certain people. At that I glared at all the girls. They shivered. Then she went full on godly Fire Queen mode, a technique I taught her, on them, and they were about to get roasted into oblivion. I said as I started to do my notes that I needed to catch up on. Aizawa blinked and nodded and went on with the lesson. I caught up in an hour on what to do and went on with the rest of my classes. At the end of the day, Yayorozu came up to me and asked, So Midoriya, when are you going to leave for Island again? She seemed uneasy at that thought. I think in 2 weeks, but I think she's coming here though. Wait, let me ask her, I responded without even looking up from my bag, and I texted her, and she said she will come to me so the thudders don't get near me. I laughed and responded, okay babe, just don't burn them into oblivion. Then I looked up and said, yes, she's coming here, haha, it's going to be so great, I said to myself. At that last part she looked mad, like furious mad. Give me your phone, she said. Why does she want my phone? But I don't like people touching my phone. Nope, my phone, I said, hugging it. She grew angrier. Give me the phone, she yelled. Well, if you put it like that, then nope, I thought. Then I said, no, I don't want to. She grew angrier, but I just tried to leave and all the girls crowded the door. You're going to give me that phone, she said, angry. I sighed. Nerve reaction, I said. Then all the girls dropped, and I stepped over them. Don't worry, you're just paralyzed until I say so. It'll wear off, but here I'll lock the door so no one does anything weird. Cough, cough, my netta, cough, cough. So later, I said as I locked the door with my lightning. I felt bad for them, so I reels them from the electric current in their nerve system and sped off. I went to the dorms and was about to go in when someone stopped. Hey Zuzu. I recognized that voice. I turned around and saw Himiko Toga with someone. I took a battle stance. The guy laughed. What kind of battle stance is that? I bet your master was one of the minor elemental gods, he said, and I knew he was an elementalist. I just shrugged, knowing exactly who Raikon was. And let me goose, which element? Are you crazy? I said with sarcasm. He grew angry while Toga snorted. He glared at her, and she shut up. Alright kid, how about you answer to the king of sound, he said smugly. I just snorted. You the king of sound? Bahahaha, how pathetic, I said, laughing. He grew angry and threw a sonic boom at me. Boom, I smirked, and just did my thing. Crocotham, and he was sent flying. Smashed into the wall. He laughed. A lightning elemental. How about I show you king of sound mode? And then his whole body went into sonic booms and he charged with a fist made of sonic booms. Okay, how about no? I said, and with that I added, Emperor of sound mode. So I went into my emperor mode and appeared right next to him and smashed him into the ground by grabbing his head and smashing it onto the ground. Boom, the wrath around us broke and he passed out and I powered down. Want next, Toga? I said. She sighed with lust but shook her head with fear and grabbed him, and they left. Well, that was a workout. Time to go to my room and meditate. I'm almost through to the Archangel of Lightning. Once that is accomplished, my other elements will go up. I said as I got in the dorms. Everyone tried to call me over, but I needed to do this, so I got in. Texted Melissa I was going to meditate, and started meditating. Time skip. Crocotham. Lightning came out of me and I stood and looked at the mirror, and I had 4 wings of lightning, which meant Archangel. Then I powered down and used my sound, and sound wings came out. That was cool. Then I used fire, and it turned out to be my Emperor armor, but fire-wise. After I used energy, and my King armor showed, but in energy. I was happy. In 2 months probably I will be like Raikon as a god of lightning. Then I looked at the clock and it was 11:30, so I left my room for something to eat and told Melissa that I accessed through and goodnight if she was asleep. Then my phone rang for FaceTime. Melissa, I answered. Hey babe, you okay? She smiled. I'm fine babe, just called you to tell you the dragon hatched and is now mine. She said I was shocked. It usually takes months, but she did it in 2 days. I impressed. Wow, you have an amazing gift for animals. It usually takes months. I said impressed. She laughed and told me she named it Deku. I laughed, and she pouted, and I made an always sound. So cute. I said. She blushed and looked away. I laughed. We kept talking. Then I felt a presence behind the wall, more like 6. Well, baby girl, how was I in bed again? I said teasingly, hoping the girls would come mad and expose them. She looked at my face, and I transmitted my face through the electrical current in it, and sound waves, and I was there right in front of her. Play along, I want to expose some stalkers. I said. She nodded and I went back. Oh baby, you were amazing. How was I? At that moment all of them came out. You did what with her? They all said at the same time. I stood there with my arms crossed with a blank face, tapping my foot and my phone in my hand. So you were spying? I said, knowing they did. They all looked down in shame. Hey babe, I'll call you later. I have some matishas to deal with. I said, using the Spanish word for snitch. She laughed and nodded. We said I love you. The girls didn't take kindly to that, and we hung up. So why were you stalking me again? I said in a threatening tone. They all looked at me and Mina said, because we heard you on the phone with her, and we wanted to see why she was so special and you can't be with us. She said. I was angered at that. First of Mina, you can't say anything considering the fact that you betrayed me. I may have forgiven you, but I still haven't forgotten. Either, and you too. Ain't I said, pointing at Momo and Sue. You have no idea that 2 people like you with all their hearts, and you want to turn them away from me? I have a girlfriend now, go find yours. I said, pushing my way through them and going to my dorm room. I sighed, got ready for bed and fell asleep, tired of all those girls, and fell asleep. The Dragon Prince confronts me. Izuku's POV. Today I woke up with a start, and looked around and saw someone with wings and silver eyes. Who are you? I asked, and he smirked and threw a fire blast that was green. The first smacked it away, and he looked surprised, but he shook it off. I jumped Spinner in the air and sent him flying out of my dorm with a spinning flying side kick, also destroying my wall, but I'll fix it later. I spread my lightning wings and flew out. Who the hell are you? I yelled. He scoffed. I am the Prince of Dragon BOW, he said snugly. I laughed at him, and Deck ended. Good, now bow, he said still smugly. I laughed maniacally. I looked at him, and my eyes went gold, and I spread my dragon wings, and claws grew, and midnight scales spread across. You think a mere Dragon Prince title can impress your god, because boy, I am the god of dragons, I said with so much malice in his voice. He started trembling at me. Then he deck-ended and bowed. What are you doing here, young prince? I asked. He shivered at my voice. I sensed a fire queen stronger than any before her, and I came to claim her, and I went to her, but she said she was already taken by you, so I came to defeat you for her, he said. I growled, and he whimpered. I used my energy powers to teleport Melissa here, and she was in chains, clothes still on her, but she was in a chair, and they were fire-blocking chains. I growled and snapped the chains. I'll be right back, baby girl. I put a protective spell on her that not even a god could do anything against her. You will die for this, I said as I flew to him. Please have mercy, he pleaded. You didn't show my love any mercy, why should I show you? I growled at him. Then in a second I hand him in a headlock and snapped his neck. I changed back and took her to my room, where I put the same spell on the room and fixed it, and laid her down. She started to stir. Are you okay, baby girl? I asked in a worried tone. She started sobbing and sobbed for the rest of night. I sniffed, thought I sniff was dead sniff. She sobbed. I looked through her memories and hoped they didn't do anything. Thankfully nothing like that, but I know who told him where to find me. I picked her up bridal style and went to the main room and sat down, put her on my lap, and she cuddled to me. Minetta, I roared out. Thankfully I put a sound curse on her so she would be soundlessly asleep. Then I made him appear, and he looked scared. How did I get H here? He said. I scowled at him, and he whimpered. Then he saw Melissa in my arms, and he paled. I called Aizawa. Hey, erase her head. Yeah, I'm gonna murder someone, I said in a calm voice, which made Minetta try to run away, but he was stuck to his seat. What who? He asked, a little scared. Minetta, I said with so much venom at that. He said, Alright, you can punish him, just don't kill him, or go overboard. Anyways, what did he do this time? My eyes went gold. He was about to sell the love of my life to a prince for power just by giving him info, I said with my dragon voice. At this I saw Minetta whimper. Never mind, go overboard, just don't kill him. I'll expel him tomorrow. I'll get the paperwork tonight, he said. I thanked him and said alright. We hung up and I looked straight at Minetta. My eyes went pure dark and my irises shine brighter than the sun. So first you betray me by not believing in me, and now this, you're going to get it, I said. He somehow got the balls to tell me this. You can't touch me, I'm the servant of the Prince of Dragons, and if you do anything to me he'll kill you. I don't care how powerful you are, you can't mess with royalty. My eyes went back to normal, but right after that my eyes went gold. Claws came out of my fingers, scales grew across my body, and wings sprouted from my back. Please, that pathetic family is below me, I am their god, I said. He paled and was about to say something when I used sound manipulation to cut off his vocal cords and went back to normal form, and used my energy mind control and went into his head and tortured him any way possible with Melissa for the next few hours until I thought he had enough. But not before one last rip his balls off. I woke up from his head and saw that Melissa was beginning to stir, and she woke up. I gave her a million-watt smile which caused her to blush. I smiled and kissed her. Now that that's settled, want some breakfast? I asked. She nodded, and we made breakfast and started eating. All the girls came in with the boys hand in hand. Finally they got over me, I thought too soon. What is she doing her? Momo said. I sighed. You see that brain-dead grape over there? I said. They all turned to see Minetta on the couch looking brain-dead. He told a prince where to find her, and she was being chained and was about to do some weird things before she mentioned my name. Then he came to me and tried to fight me before I killed him, and looked through her memories of who told him, and he came up, and she and I tortured him in his head for hours, which was years for him, on Aizawa's approval, of course. I said. All the girls seemed happy at the thought of Minetta being tortured, but scowled at what he did. Doesn't explain why she's in your arms though, Mina said. I scowled at her for saying that. She shivered. Because she's my girlfriend, you got boyfriends, do it with them, I said while me and her finished our food. Soon me and Melissa were finished eating, and Lime and her wanted to rest, so we went to my dorm and fell asleep cuddling each other, saying no to being a bridegroom. Izuku's POV. I was sitting down in my room cultivating my elements because right now I'm in a breakthrough and I think I'm about to Crocotham. He was struck by lightning, and then he realized what he had to do, something his father told him to do when he reached this level. Flashback. Today I will tell you what you're supposed to do when you ascend to a god. I nodded and he continued. You are to repeat these words. From the light I create in the darkness, from the storms of destruction, I can create new things. From the speed and strength of the lightning bolt, and the power of the divine, I shall ascend to a god. Izuku nodded and took those words to heart. Flashback end. I remembered them and began to say. From the light I create in the darkness, from the storms of destruction, I can create new thing. From the strength and speed of the lightning bolt, and the power of the divine, I shall ascend to a god. I repeated the words and I started to produce white lightning. Then 6 wings sprouted from my back. 2 were on fire and the other 4 were made of sounds, and I had gauntlets and a chest plate of energy, and I looked in the mirror. My eyes were purely made of white lightning, and I knew I had ascended, and I knew people would be gunning for me, so I powered down and called Melissa because she had something to tell me before this. Hey Melissa, you had something to tell me? I asked over the call. Yeah, can you be next to Uncle Knight while you're at it? She asked, which I said okay and teleported to him. I soon saw All Might and my mom at the couch, and they were startled by me. So sorry, Melissa told me to be next to you when she tells me something. They nodded. You can continue, Melissa, I said, but no response. Melissa? I asked again, no response. I was about to ask again when a pillar of white fire, and I knew who it was. I smiled, and out came Melissa in her full glory. So you want to tell me in person, my goddess? I asked. How did you know? It was a surprise. She whined. I smiled and said, Hee, you weren't the only one, you know. I said as my eyes lit up with white lightning. She was shocked but beamed at this and hugged me. The reason she is a goddess right now after only months is because she's only doing one element, and it's a part of that element, while he is doing the full element, and he is also doing 3 other elements in the process. Well, now we're both divine. Nope, I already was. I'm a double god. I said. She groaned, but I laughed, and I kissed her. Oh, and that isn't it, she said. I was confused at that. Oh, then what? I asked. She smiled. I'm coming to be a support item student. I'm coming to UA to be a student tomorrow, she said. I beamed at this and I picked her up and spun her around while she was giggling. Haha, this is amazing. Now we get to see each other every day, I said as she beamed at this, and then we turned to see All Might and my mom beaming and chuckling at this. You two make a great pair together, my mom said. Me and Melissa went crimson, but we got over it and were about to leave when a golden portal opened, and out came an old man, a mid-50s man, and a mid-50s woman. A young woman about my age, well, no, but yes at the same time, and they were all wearing robes and had dragon wings, guessing they are here to avenge that brat. Hello, is Izuku midoriya here? The old man said. Yeah, that's me. What's up? The mid-50s guy scoffed, and the lady laughed. How dare you be so rude to us? We are the royal dragon family, the mid-50s guy said. Okay, so? Me and Melissa both said at the same time with the same amount of high-level sass. Never mind, my son, we are here to speak merely to you as to why and how you killed my grandchild, he said. They seemed happy that he was gone. Because he tried to take my girlfriend away from me and he tried to kill me, so I simply broke his neck and he was dead. I deadpanned. They were in shock while the young lady looked sad at the girlfriend part. How can a mere mortal with a dragon spirit kill my son? He said while his eyes started to glow silver. Because he have a thing called power, yeah, I said sarcastically. He scoffed and charged at me. I merely kicked him in the side and he went flying to the wall. How cough I is cough cough this cough be possible? He managed to ease out. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, I said. Then my eyes went to white lightning. I am the lightning god now. They grew splendid but terrified at this. Okay, will you power down? The old man said. I nodded and powered down. Now is that all? I said. The girl whispered something to the old man, and he held his hand up. We would like to arrange a marriage between you and my granddaughter, he said, which caught everyone off guard but the girl. She looked happier than ever. But me and Melissa deadpanned. No, they were surprised at this, but the woman in her 50s said, I'm sorry, girl, but he has no choice because... Then she suddenly was on Melissa's neck. She couldn't finish because Melissa backhanded her across the room. Yeah, I also forgot to mention she is also a goddess, I said. They grew worried, but the woman smiled and her eyes grew silver. Oh, time to show you some manners, girl. I am a goddess and a queen now. What are you gonna do? She said as her scales grew. Then my eyes went golden. You will not harm her. I will not do this marriage, I said, turning into my dragon form. They recognized the form, the eye color. I knew they did because they grew mortified at this. They knew they were the color of the dragon god. And no T, the O, only O, one T, that H had T, that C color, and P power was Raikon. Why do you have it? The old man said. I chuckled. Well, he is my father, not biologically, but he taught me everything I knew, I said as a sweat dropped at my normality to their old god. So leave this place before I lose my patience, I said. The girl looked depressed and disappointed and jealous at Melissa. I could feel it, but they nodded and left through the portal. I turned back to my normal self. So how about some katsudon? They all nodded and I went to the kitchen and made it. Then we ate and the day went on. New weapon. Nobody's POV. Izuku was sitting down enjoying his time with his girlfriend in the dorm rooms since she moved to UA a couple days ago. So has that dragon family been annoying you lately? And the weird girl? Melissa said with a hint of jealousy, since the girl was royalty, and she thought that he would want a girl of a higher status. Actually, yeah, I think so, but I don't know if it's them though, he said. She grew a little jealous but then calmed down at that last part. What do you mean? She asked him with a curious face. Well, this weird green portal keeps appearing, and every time I wait for them to come they never do, so I don't know if it's them," he said with a shrug and his hands into this position. "Wait, wasn't their portal silver though?" Melissa asked because she clearly remembered that it was silver, not green. "Yeah, now that I think of it, well, next time it opens up I will try to SE." He was cut off by the green portal opening. They both looked at each other and back at the portal in silence. That's until Izuku busted out laughing. "Oh, giggle the wheeze irony laugh," he said. Melissa looked at her boyfriend and back at the ports and started to laugh too. As soon as they calmed down, Izuku walked to the portal with some giggles and stuck his head through it while Melissa yelled Izuku, but he ignored her antics and saw a dark room and a cane at the end. When he saw the cane he felt drawn to it, so he walked towards it. Meanwhile, Melissa saw what happened and walked into and saw a dark room and Izuku walking to a cane. "Zuzu, what is this place?" she asked, but he ignored her. As he was walking towards the cane he heard a voice he has been longing to hear ever since he got back to the real world, a voice that he prayed to hear every night, the voice of his father, the previous god of lightning. "Raikon. My son, you have finally become the god of lightning like you promised. I hope that this cane, my gift to you for the accomplishment, will help you on your journey," he said. Izuku let out a tear and looked up at the sky. "Dad?" he asked. The voice chuckled. "Yes, it's me, my son. I have long awaited this moment for me to give you this," Raikon said. The boy smiled. "What is it, Dad?" he asked his father, while Melissa crept up to him and knew who the voice was. This is the cane that protected me in times of a great despair and ruin. This is the cane of Father Time," he said. This shocked both of them, since they were very immersed into the elementalist world. They knew that time was a very and most powerful element that was not meant to be messed with, and when time was created, like every other element that was created, it would need something to hold its essence onto. While lightning never needed a vessel because of its wildness, Father Time chose a cane as its vessel, and it is said to control time itself to whatever extent it wants to be. "How did why you get this, Dad?" he stuttered, still shocked at what was being given to him. "It was a gift from him, as I saved his successor's life, to which his successor was mad at him that he gave the cane to me and not him. And here I am giving to my successor and son, because this is half the end of your training. Learn to control the cane and your elements. Dragon and divine ability will be heightened, although it will take you days for you to learn the cane," Raikon said. So Izuku accepted, and as soon as he reached for the cane went flying to his hand, and a surge of power went through him, and he fell to his knees due to the pain. He got up panting hard and saw Melissa with a worried look. "I'm huff fine, pant, just a little huff rest," he said, panting, and Melissa smiled and helped him up. "Oh, Dad, what did you mean by half to the end of my training?" he asked him, but he was a voice in the void, so he just looked up. "You will know soon enough. Now learn the cane, but when you're done just say my name while meditating and the portal will show up, but in a white color." As he said that, a portal opened below them and they appeared in Izuku's bedroom, and they landed in an awkward situation. They blushed, but she smirked and kissed him passionately, and he kissed back. They were about to go further when they heard a knock on the door. They groaned, and he got up and walked to the door and opened it, and saw the most annoying girl he has ever met, the Dragon Princess. What are you doing here?" he asked, a little irritated. "I came here to see my fiancé," she said, and walked in and saw Melissa looking at her with an annoyed look. "I knew it, you were cheating on me," she yelled. Both Melissa and Izuku looked bewildered. "First of all, we're not even engaged. Second of all, she is my girlfriend. Third of all," he said. And the cane appeared in his head. You see, Raikon didn't know that while the power surge was going through Izuku, Izuku got the information as to how to use the cane in every way possible, but he wanted to wait a few days for his dad's pride. "Get out or I'll make sure you get turned back to a baby," he warned her. She took one good look at the cane and paled. She was cut off by him saying, "Oh, this it was my father's and now mine." "Now leave," he warned her. She paled more, if that's even possible, and she portaled out of there. Melissa looked at Izuku, curious about the cane, and how did he know how to use it, but furious at what just happened, and why'd she call him her fiancé? Hey, calm down, Velociraptor. I don't even know where that came from or what was that about, so calm down," he said, walking slowly towards her. She laughed at the nickname he called her, and then remembered to ask about the cane. "Hey Izuku, how did you make it appear, and how did you know that you can turn her into a baby?" she asked him. He sighed and said, Well, remember when I was hit with all that power? She nodded and he continued. Well, I got also the knowledge of the cane and how to use it, so I know how to use, for example. He used the cane to make her how she was this morning, for in fact she was in her footy Deku hero merch pajamas. She blushed deep, started to hit him in the chest to change her back, and he did while laugh. Idiot, why did you have to do that? She whined while madly blushing while he just laughed, and she pouted, which made home laugh more. You said you wanted to know how I knew, so I showed you, he said. She glared at him but then said, Want to continue what we started? He smirked and put the cane to the side and kissed her to the max, and they made out and did some not so pure things all night. Training exercise. Izuku's POV. Izuku was in class listening to the teacher writing down notes, and noticing that Atsuka Kendo was moved up to Class 1A since Mineta was expelled, so he guessed that Shinso was in Class 1B but looked back at the teacher continuing the lesson. When he finished teaching the lesson, he said, Alright kids, we have good news today. The big three will be joining us in a training exercise. As he said that, the three strongest of the school came in, and I felt the power of one for all in Mirio, and I smiled, because I knew he lost his quirk, so now that he has one for all, he is even stronger than before. Hey guys, all three said. Wait, Mirio, didn't you lose your quirk? Kirishima asked. P.S. Everyone here knows about one for all since AM had to tell them why he was quirkless again. No one's POV. Oh right, didn't Midoriya or All Might tell you? Asked Mirio, to which he received shaking heads and no's from the class. Well, since Midoriya doesn't want one for all back, he figured since I didn't have a quirk and I was the first choice, as he said, I got one for all now, he said while yellow electricity sparked around him. To which made Midoriya want to mess with, so he used the electricity and made a little dragon that left his body and landed on top of his head. Everyone was in shock, even Mirio, while Midoriya was holding back a laughter. Why are you shocked? It's your electricity, Nijire said, still flabbergasted at what's happening, seeing the dragon wave at her. Hey, don't look at me, He was cut off by Izuku burying out in laughter, and as soon as he did that, the dragon dispersed and everyone looked at him in confusion, but Bakugo knew it was him and looked around and saw their faces and busted out laughing with Izuku. Everyone turned to him dumbfounded that he was laughing with a guy he hated months ago. Then again, he was the one that went and tried to prove him innocent. Why are you laughing? Lita asked, still dumbfounded at what happened. The end nerd G got why you are all bahaha, he said, starting to laugh, and then they looked at the laughing Izuku. How did you do that, Midoriya? Nijire asked. Ha, I'll give you a hint, God of Lightning, he said, continuing his laughing face, and everyone but the big three knew what he was talking about, but Nijire was curious. What's he talking about? She asked Aizawa. He looked at her and looked back to Izuku. Hey problem child, do the thing, he said. Izuku composed himself and created a force of lightning around him, though with it he created a mini dragon, and he patted it with his hand. The big three had different expression. Mirio had one of understanding because he knew why he rejected one for all. Tamaki had one of shock because of the sheer power and control he's using to do that, and Nijire, well, let's just say she was beyond excited because she knew she liked him, but now she wants him, but also wants to know, what is that quirk? Is that your real quirk? She asked in excitement with a little bit of a blush. He looked up and chuckled. No, I'm quirkless, he said bluntly. They all stared in shock but Aizawa and Bakugo. H. Everyone but those two exclaimed. Yeah, it's called being an elementalist. They're all scattered across the world, but they seem to love to bother me for some reason, he said while petting the lightning dragon. So anyone can get this power? Nijire asked again. No, only the quirkless can have, because quirks are basically element abilities with drawbacks, he said. Everyone stared in confusion. Take Kachan for example. His type of quirk is a fire-based ability that came out of two fire-based liquids that can turn into fire or explosions for that matter, or literally look at Todoroki. He is half ice, half fire, so yeah, he explained. Everyone looked bewildered. Anyways, let's get back to the training exercise we were going to do, and this is the thing, you all are going to face the big three, not just Mirio, all of them, Aizawa said. Some people were frightened, but some were pumped, while the rest just said alright. But there was one who wasn't fazed. You guessed it, our very own Cinnamon Bun Izuku. Midoriya read that last part like someone announcing a pro wrestler. Alright, get into your suits and get ready for the fight, Aizawa said, Everyone nodded and went to dress up. Time skip. Everyone was heading out, and there they were, the big three and Class 1A. Okay, everyone here? He looked around and saw that Izuku wasn't there. Where's the problem, child? He asked. Nobody answered because they also saw that he wasn't there. Sorry I'm late, Izuku said, walking out with his new lightning fireproof suit. Everyone stared in awe at his new suit. It was like he looked like a god, to which he was, but Bakugo said, Hey nerd, what's with the sword and cane? Are you a knight or an old man? Some sniffled a laugh. Ha ha, very funny, Kachan, but know this, he said, pulling the cane from his back. Is what I call the cane of Father Time. Then he tapped the bottom of the cane on the floor, and in an instant Bakugo had a tick mark drawn on his forehead, and Izuku was behind them eating katsudon. Hi, he said from behind them, which made them jump. How did you get there? Bakugo exclaimed, which got nods from the group. Izuku sighed at their denseness. Like I said, cane of Father Time, so I used it to stop time for just here and go to a nearby cafe and buy some custodon, and came back before I restarted time again. He exclaimed, to which got fearful, amazed, power-hungry and lustful looks at his cane. So let's get started with this fight then, Izuku said as he put the bowl of finished katsudon down. Got up and put the cane on his back. Everyone nodded and got lined up to fight. They all got in battle stances but Izuku and ran straight at the big three. Mirio activated full cowling, which he learned from Izuku, and ran straight at them, and he remembered how much power he could use by Izuku telling him. Flashback. Hey Mirio, wait up, Izuku said, walking towards Mirio, which made Mirio a little uncomfortable since he was as tall as he was now. Yeah, midoriya? He asked. I was wondering if you got one for all yet, Izuku asked, and he got a nod of confirmation from him. Do you want some tips on how to control it? He asked. Mirio was ecstatic because he could learn from someone who had to learn how to control it, since All Might just had it off the bat. Yes please, but let's go to the gym, he said. Izuku nodded and texted Melissa that he was going to the gym to teach Mirio how to learn one for all and if she would want to join him, to which she happily said yes. Later. They were both walking when something at alarming breakneck speed was going towards them. Mirio got into a battle stance while Izuku got into a stance with his arms spread out that confused Mirio, and then all of a sudden the thing came crashing into Izuku. Mirio couldn't see what was happening because of all the dust that accumulated until he heard giggles and the dust started to clear off, and he saw All Might's niece in Izuku's arms while he twirled her around. You know that was fun, Izuku said, and she laughed while Mirio looked at them in shock. Since when are you two dating, and since when do you have a quirk? He said, and they both laughed. That was just pure strength and speed, and for about 3 months now. Melissa said he was dumbfounded by that but just sighed, and they went to the gym. Okay, now let's get this started, Izuku said. So this is my point of view. You try and use as much as you can with one for all, which I can see from you is about 30% more than I could use, and spread it out through your whole body, and it will give you an increase of speed and strength. Flashback over. As he remembered that, he also remembered from that day he could control 50% of one for all, so he activated it while Nijire blew them away with the shock waves, and Tamaki used his tentacles and grabbed them and threw the other half, while Mirio ran straight forward towards Bakugo, and Todoroki plus Kirishima, and they all got on guard. Todoroki shot an ice blast, but he punched it, and it shattered. Then he sped up and Engut shot him and kicked him towards the wall, which knocked him out. Then he proceeded to run towards Bakugo and Bakugo towards him, so Bakugo was about to bombard Mirio with an explosion when Mirio used Bakugo's hands as soon as the explosion started, which pushed him towards Kirishima, and he used the force of the blast and his own power and punched him in the jaw as hard as he could, and Kirishima was knocked out. Then he ran towards Bakugo and dodged all his attacks and punched him straight through the jaw, but he didn't. Bakugo ducked and tried to uppercut him, to which he dodged it and did a spinning kick on him, so he went flying, knocked out cold. While all this is happening, Izuku watched with a smirk. He knew this would happen but shrugged it off. Then it ended and all three of them turned and looked at Izuku, who was spacing out on what he should do. Melissa's birthday tomorrow, which 4 days before Valentine's Day, so he had to get her 2 gifts, but he needed them to be awesome. And they charged at him. He looked back at them and disappeared in a second. He was behind all of them with his hand shaped in a slashing formation, and they all fell to the ground and couldn't get up because he hit them in a nerve to temporarily paralyze them. Okay, I'm done here and I have to plan for Melissa's birthday and school is about to end, so later, he said with a peace sign and disappeared with a crocothum. Aizawa was just sitting there in complete and utter shock at the sheer power he just saw midoriya preform and a little scared that was just his physical strength and speed and at the bare minimum, so he can't imagine the monster or god that he was made into. Birthday and the 7 stances. Izuku's POV. I woke up at 3 in the morning on a Saturday, which was my love's birthday, and with Melissa next to me cuddling I smiled and kissed her forehead. Happy birthday, baby girl, I whispered and switched myself with a pillow and wrote a note for her to meet me downstairs and went to the others' rooms who wanted to help me. Which were Tokoemi, Shudo, Kachan, Sato, and Shoji, Mei, plus the teachers who are Power Loader, All Might, Eraserhead, Midnight, and Niza. Plus my mom and Mr. Shield who came yesterday for her. The girls for some reason didn't want to and the other guys didn't want to wake up early, so we got together and started setting up banners and made cake, also made balloons, bought confetti cannons. By the time we were done it was 8 in the morning, and we knew she'd wake up at this time, so we waited. Melissa's POV. I started stirring thinking, why is my love so soft as a pillow? He's a little harder than this. Then I opened my eyes and saw that it was actually a pillow. Where the hell is he? Did he blow me off on my birthday? I got up with tears threatening to come out and looked around, looked to my side and saw a knot on the desk, so I went to it, and the note read, Hello my love, I'm sorry but I'm having breakfast with some girls, please don't be mad, I'm at the main lounge. I read this in tears and I changed and ran to the lounge. As soon as I got there it was dark, but I see figures moving? Oh no, not this please, anything but this. I turned on the lights and surprise, surprise, confetti flew and I saw everyone yell, and then I looked in the middle and saw my love standing there with a fired confetti cannon. I had tears in my eyes and ran to him and slammed myself into him and hugged him to death. Please don't scare me like that, I said, sobbing into him. He smiled, put my head up and kissed me and said, never again, as he put his forehead to mine, and then I heard a cough and looked up. I saw everyone, Uncle Might, Zuzu's mom, some of his classmates, my teacher, my best friend Mei, who I learned that she had a crush on him but she moved on. Then I saw someone that made me so happy. I saw my dad there smiling. Dad! I yelled and ran to him, then jumped on him, and he spinnered me around while laughing. Ha ha ha, hello princess, glad I could make it for you, he said smiling, while I giggled. Then we started partying. We did a games like pin the tail. My boyfriend was flying upside down messing with people, but mostly being with me, and my dad and Uncle Might plus Zuzu's mom were talking. Bakuho was yelling at Todoroki. Sato was eating the big ass cake he made for the party. Mei was pestering Tokoemi to try out her babies. I was happy and I smiled, then kissed my upside down boyfriend passionately. Though we broke off. You know, this feels like something from Spider-Man, he said. I laughed. Haha, yeah, and Zuzu's? I said. Asked. He turned to me. Yeah, Melly? He said, smiling. I faltered. Damn, that smile is going to kill me someday. I love you, thank you for this, I said with a bit of tears. He smiled even more and dropped down and hugged me. I love you too, he said, smiling with his eyes closed. Oh, I heard someone say in a dark voice behind me, and I felt extreme amounts of killer intent. I stood guard and got ready in a stance, so did Zuzu, and we turned to see all the girls with dark expressions. Happy birthday, Melissa, they said, darkly with killer intent. Drop the killer intent or I'll let out mine, I heard Zuzu say, to which I shivered because the last time I felt that kind of killer intent was when the Dragon Princess came back with the elders this time. Flashback. Me and Zuzu were at the park on a date having fun when a portal came up. We thought it was Raikon again when our step, that silver-haired, hitched the Dragon Princess. Then after her were some old people and a few people that looked like guards. Ugh, what do you want? Zuzu said. They scoffed at him, but the princess looked at me smugly. You shall not be disrespectful to the princess, but anyways, we have come to take you to the Dragon Realm to get a marriage arrangement for punishment, as you killed our prin. He was cut off by a massive killing that even made me scared, and I can produce god-level killing intent. They dropped, and some even peed on themselves. While I'm in this situation, I couldn't help but chuckle. You think you can order me around? I may be a dragon, but don't forget I am also a god, so bow down, and respect me or else I'll make hell feel like heaven to you, he said with golden eyes which I thought were as beautiful as his emerald green ones. Everyone bowed in respect except the princess. Why do you refuse me? Why stay with that blonde Biambi? Again she was cut off with so much killing intent that it started to choke a lot of the elders and guards, and the princess was on her hands and knees. Because she's the love of my life while you are just a shit-faced hitch who just wants me for my power and status, he said. Then he picked her up by the hair while she was screaming in pain and threw her through the portal and said, "Leave now." They nodded and ran into the portal, and he closed it, and as soon as they were gone my smiley boyfriend was back. "Let's get back to the date, shall we?" he said, smiling. I laughed at his change and nodded. Then the date went on as it was. Flashback end. I still remember it like it was yesterday, which it technically was, and then they saw Izuku, and the killing intent went away. "Good, now enjoy the party," he said, and went back to hugging me and kissing me. After that we went with our day, and soon we were on our bed cuddling, and in all honesty I think was the best birthday I have ever had. Then I fell asleep cuddling with the love of my life. Line break. No one's POV. Izuku was sleeping with Melissa when suddenly he was in the temple where he met his father, and his father was in front of him. "Hi, Dad," he said happily, and he ran to him and hugged him. "How I miss you," Raikon said. Izuku laughed, and they talked for a time until his dad said, "I see you've mastered the cane?" I laughed. "Yet to be honest, I learned how to use it when you first gave it to me, but no biggie." To say Raikon was shocked was an understatement, because he had to learn how to use it for a long time, more like 10 years, but it's his son, the man who became a god at 16 like him, so he shrugged it off and laughed. "Ha ha ha, of course you did, so now you're ready for the second half of your training," he said. Izuku nodded, and Raikon continued as he stood up. "I will teach you the technique that God used to seal down Amara," he said. Izuku's eyes widened at that. "He taught me the technique when I was your age, and I shall teach you the technique now, my son," he continued. Izuku had stars in his eyes at this point. "They're called the 7 stances of God, powerful enough to seal supremo gods, which are only the 2 of them, okay?" he asked Izuku, who could only nod at that. "Okay, since we only have 6 more hours, I'll make it 6 years, okay?" he asked him again. Izuku sighed because he couldn't see his love for 6 years, but could only nod. This is for her the only way he could protect her. Then Raikon started his training, and Izuku could only imagine the strength he could have with it, so he began his training of full hell and punishment. And done. CKU thought. 6 hours later. Izuku stirred from his sleep next to Melissa. He smiled. He just finished his training and he could remember all the stances. First stance, Shield of God's Hands. Second stance, Eye of God. Third stance, Speed of God. Fourth stance, Fort of God. Fifth stance, Punch of God. Sixth stance, Raise. Seventh stance, Wrath of God. And he smiled at that. He was now strong enough to keep her and everyone safe, plus to save the world from evil, so he went back to cuddling and fell asleep again for the rest of the morning with her, since the party ended at 2 a.m., so he slept with her. Attack Point 1. No one's POV. Izuku and Melissa were on a date at the moment, fully aware of someone following them, a very powerful person, so they took a left on the aisle and turned around to see a man in flame-type armor and a heavenly sword. "Who are you?" Izuku growled out, and Melissa scowled. "So you are my father's successor? Pathetic," he growled out. "Who is your father?" Izuku asked him curiously. "My father is Raikon, and from what I can feel you don't seem all that powerful. You don't even have a type of armor," he said smugly, while both Melissa and Izuku deadpanned him. "We don't want to look like weirdos in public," they said at the same time. He was cut off by Izuku, sending him sky high. He turned to Melissa. "All right, let's continue," he said, and they were about to walk away when they heard a crash behind them. He let out an annoyed sigh and turned back. "What do you want?" he said, annoyed at him for ruining their date. "You're going to regret hurting the great Flamirier, the son of Raikon," he said, mad while lighting his hands on red fire. "Ah, so you must be the son who betrayed him because you wanted more power," Izuku said, a little mad. "What? I never did that," he said, confused, and at that point Izuku knew that this was the successor of the real Flamirier, the real his. Dad told him that the real one was power-hungry, but was always a serious ass, but he never had a 30-foot pole up his ass. "Ah, so you're his successor, not the real one," clicks tongue. "Ah man, I thought I could go all out today," he said, a bit depressed, while Melissa rubbed his back and Flamiria's face faltered. Hey, I am way stronger than the old man, he said, a little annoyed that he didn't think he was strong and embarrassed that they found out so quickly. Well, if you say so, first let's go somewhere else, then let's fight, Izuku said with a blank face. He nodded and wrote something and threw it at him before flame traveling. Izuku picked it up and saw where it was and groaned. Ugh, why here? I'm so lazy I might no even do it, he said while Melissa's sweat dropped at her boyfriend's antics. Then she grabbed the paper and realized why it was on in a mountain range in China. How about I get us a ride there? She asked him, excited to show him something she's been wanting to show him. He looked up at her and smiled. All right, to the airport, he said in a happy way, but she grabbed his collar on his shirt and said, Oh no, not a plane whistle, she said, and whistled so loud that it hurt his ears. He stared at her like she grew another head, and she told him to wait a bit. After a few minutes he was about to lighting travel them there when he felt something huge come this way, but the thing is he felt the dragon presence papa he heard, and immediately he knew what it was and bonked Melissa on the head. Ah, what the hell was that for? She exclaimed to her. You do realize that the elemental world is supposed to be secluded and to be kept a secret, right? He asked in a terrifying calm voice. Yeah, why? She said, a little nervous if he found out her secret. Then why bring a 30-foot dragon here? He yelled. She chuckled nervously with a nervous smile. Well, for your information, she has an ability to hide in plain sight that makes her scales invisible, she said. He sighed and knew it was possible because he could do it. And how did you know that she was coming? She asked him again. Well, when you're the god of dragons and this one comes straight from your power, you get a mental link. He deadpanned her, and she had a look of jealousy because she wanted a mental link, but he poked her forehead and smiled. Papa Mama up here. She basically jumped when she heard that, and they looked up to see two beautiful silver eyes staring at them. Well, let's go, she said. He smiled and they jumped on top of the dragon and they flew off at Mach 3, which surprised them both of her speed. Time skip 1 hour. They were flying when she suddenly dropped and they screamed. H. They both screamed and then they landed, but making a crater, but they didn't realize they landed on someone. Get this dragon filth off me, a feminine voice said. So the dragon moved and saw a woman in water-type armor, so they got off and tried to help her, but she was mad, so she tried to backhand them, but it was caught by the wrist by someone with sun armor. Hello, may I ask who you are? He asked calmly, but on the inside the guy was ready to kill them if they were humans who found a dragon with the essence of 3 gods: the dragon god, the lightning god, and the heavenly flame goddess, plus its own essence. It had the potential of great power. I'm Izuku Midoriya, and this is Melissa. Someone named Flamorio told us to come, he said, bowing a little. Melissa too, and some people chuckled while the rest laughed at that name except a very fuming Flamorio, literally. Its Flamorio, why a moron, he exclaimed. Izuku turned and saw the guy on fire. Ah, there he is, but someone should put him out before he burns this mountain range, he said. Then people started to notice he just a kid and the girl was hot, so the guys thought she was up for the grabbing. So one guy went up to her in bright green armor and put his hand on her shoulder. Hey, hot stuff, how about you ditch this puny GACK? He was cut off by Melissa kicking him in the balls so hard that he went flying to the next mountains and crashed. Yes, I forgot to tell you, she's the goddess of the heavenly flame, so best not to buck with her at the time, Izuku said, smiling, which didn't faze no one. We're all gods, her boy. I suggest you leave before getting pummeled by Flamorio. A girl in brown and silver said. She sounds like a hunter of Artemis, Izuku thought while sweat dropping. Now come on, Flame, right, let's see what you got, he said, going into the middle of the clearing while Melissa sat down behind his side with the dragon and everybody else was on the other side. The said guy growled and went in there too. You'll regret butchering my name, maggot, he said angrily. Izuku ignored that and asked, by the way, who are all those people? He said, asking him who the people in different armors are. For your information, I and the rest of them are all gods of all the elements, and we are the Elemental Council, he said. He looked around and sure enough, all the armors showed him that they were really all the main elements, but didn't find any light or darkness ones, so that means no one else can be an omnipotent god or goddess besides the Almighty. So he shrugged and waited for him to charge. Flamorio growled. What, aren't you going to get into your armor? Oh right, you don't have one, he boasted, and most of the people laughed. Izuku looked at Melissa, who was getting annoyed by him, and nodded. He sighed and lightning came out of his body and formed an armor that looked like stable lightning. Everyone started sweating because he not only does he have lightning but he also has the armor of Raikon, the strongest and most powerful god and the father of most of the element gods before they betrayed him. How do you have that armor? One of the goddesses exclaimed. Well, Dad gave it to me and plus I am a god as well, I'm the new god of lightning, so yeah. He said nonchalantly while Melissa's sweat dropped at him, but the rest of them paled at that. So can someone referees he match please? He asked them. The sun god nodded and went to the in the middle of them both. Hey Jime. Attack PT2. No one's POV. Hey Jime. The proctor started the fight and they both charged at each other, boom, and their fists clashed while Izuku's was normal. Flamirier had a bit of fire in it. When their fists clashed it sent a shockwave so strong it broke the ground below them and blew a gust of wind. Some gasped as they didn't believe a commoner like him can have such great power to go toe-to-toe with him. Then Izuku went for an uppercut, it was blocked, and Izuku smirked. It's been a while since he's had a good fight, so they went on a flurry of attacks. Then Flamirier burst into flames all over his body and roundhouse kicked Izuku, boom, who was sent flying to a mountain. Flamirier smirked thinking he won, so he started walking back. Then the bottom half of the mountain exploded, vrabum, and out came Izuku, and he landed making cracks which surprised people that he survived. He turned back to Melissa and said, I'm going to let loose a bit, do you want to go back or stay and watch? Melissa glared at him. What do you think? She said viciously. Izuku laughed and turned back and saw Flamirier with his flames burning and powering him up with his eyes on fire. Alright, my turn, he said as electricity started crackling around him. Then and it kept getting bigger until he exploded and lighting his eyes made of pure lightning and lightning string out of nowhere around him, and it didn't even come from the sky, it was just around him dancing like it was serving its master. Then he disappeared and appeared right beside Flamirier and kicked him away, which only resulted in him coming back mad. They started going toe-to-toe with every punch, kick, elbow or knee a block was in for both of them as they were at a match. Then Flamirier tried to back up but Izuku just Spartan kicked him, boom, and instead he went flying. He came back flames blazing. Fine, you want to go, let's go, he said as he said that lightning started to crackle a bit on him. As a general showed in his left shoulder. Lightning general, not bad, but I think I have a higher rank in your element than you have in mine, Izuku said. As he said that, two fiery red, orange, and yellow wings popped from his back and flames started to consume him as well as lightning. Flamirier paled but kept up the act and he charged. With the power boost a little bit above of him, he dodged and kicked him to the ground. He appeared behind him and kicked him up. Then he spread his sound wings and energy armor of the Emperor, and then he dug his fist into his stomach, and he spat out blood. Then crackethum, he hit the ground with so much force the ground shattered. He flew down and powered down next to Melissa, who had stars in her eyes. She jumped into his arms. That was awesome, she said. He smiled and twirled her around and she giggled. Yeah, I needed to let loose a bit, he said, smiling, which made her blush because she still can't get over that damn smile. But you weren't going all out, she said. Which caught everyone's attention because they thought he went all out even if Flamirier was going all out in that fight using his second element. Yeah, I know, I didn't want to destroy the valley, he said, scratching his cheek. This made them all pale knowing his power and that he could go beyond that. Excuse me, young man, can you show us your strongest form? A god that looked like the platinum element said. He looked at him and shrugged. Nah, I'm good, he said, walking away. You dare turn your back on us, boy, someone said behind him. Melissa, what's the name of your dragon again? He asked her calmly. Oh, how about Sylvia? She asked. He nodded and said, Okay, get on Sylvia and ride over us, don't come down until I say so, okay? I need to put these guys down a step. She nodded, got on top of the giant black, white whirl-scaled dragon with horns. As she flew up they could feel the killing intent from him, which was enough to suffocate some of the minor gods and some angel-rank guests. Divine ability, yin-yang drive, he said as darkness and light whirled around him and exploded. The ground below him exploded as he turned his head to see the paled gods suffocating at his power. Before anyone knew what happened, Izuku had the gods that screamed his name by the neck. Try to order me or the love of my life ever again, I will shred you to pieces, he said as he let go. Then he swiped his hand towards the mountain and the mountain range crumbled by the sheer force of power. All the gods saw this and paled even further. He destroyed a mountain range with just his hand. Then he turned back and they saw his eyes darkness with a glow of light as irises. "Remember, I was holding back a lot when I did that," he said, then disappeared and appeared on top of the dragon behind Melissa holding her waist, and the dragon vanished. All the gods stared at the spot until one spoke. "I can do that. I am the son of the lightning god Raikon after all." And that idiot was known as Rainok, the god of thunder, a sub-element to lightning. They all turned to him, and the moonlight goddess went up to him and bonked him on the head. "Awa, what was that for, Luna?" he asked her, rubbing his head. "You know why. We wanted to see if he could be an ally, and now he's an enemy since you tried to order him around." She yelled at him, which made him shrink. "Yeah, you may be his son, but he inherited his power even up to the divine ability he has. Hell, I would be surprised if he had his weapons and techniques too." The sun god named Roan. Everyone paled at the thought of him. Having Kurikara with him would have been a disaster, so they decided to ally with him later on. Scene change. Izuku and Melissa landed on top of the Yui dorms and they got off the dragon. "Hey Sylvia?" he asked the dragon. "Yes, Papa," she responded back. "We love you know that, right?" he said, asked while hugging Melissa. The dragon snuggled its head with them. "I love you too, Mama, Papa," she said to them. They smiled and hugged her. As they broke the hug, they went inside and they found out that Sylvia could turn smaller, so she went into the room with them. They laid down and cuddled together, and Sylvia cuddled with them. They were tired, so they fell asleep, waiting the next day. I again with the dragons. Izuku's POV. It's been weeks since the duel and the other gods, and I am really bored, but I've been cultivating. Next to Melissa, who is literally on fire right now, but I'm surrounded by lightning at the moment too, so whatever. Anyways, while I'm feeling the thunder, get it, no? Okay, I felt something in me. Like it was a feeling that I can easily break it. Then I just cocked back a spiritual fist and boom. A power surge went through me and I felt one with the elements. I surged through and tapped into the storm element. Then the nature element. Finally got the only element I couldn't get. Earth. I finally reached elemental continuity. And I felt my dragon power surge through and my eyes shined bright and I felt power, just pure and utter power, and I stood up and let it calm down. I looked around and everything was broken. I looked to my left and saw Melissa on the floor, a little hurt. "Melissa," I said while running towards her. She looked up and smiled weakly. "You okay? Did I do this?" "Let me heal you," I said while spinning my hands. "Soul water, phoenix fire, yin healing," I said as glowing water and yellow beautiful flames came out, and started spinning in a yin-yang way and started glowing. Then all of her injuries started healing and she looked better. "What happened?" I asked her. She chuckled a bit. "You happened, you dummy," she said as she bonked my head with a pout on her voice. "You made a breakthrough and now I have no idea what realm you are anymore," she said helplessly looking at me. I chuckled and checked my realm. I stumbled from shock. Both of my god forms merged. I am now at the double god realm, which is the highest you can go at elemental cultivation. "I'm at double god realm," I said. Melissa's jaw dropped, and her eyes popped out of her sockets. "H," she screeched. I covered my ears because it was so loud. Let me tell you why we're so shocked instead of glad. The ranks go like this: Knight, Master, Grand Master, Captain, General, Commander, Prince, Crown, Prince, King, Emperor, Angel, Archangel, God, Ethereal God. Then after that you can go for another element, and that's it. But it's mostly impossible to get to even Angel rank. But if you get double God, then you're basically the strongest, and well, I'm a double Ethereal God, which is higher than double God. Melissa then laughed and hugged me, and I spun her around, and I looked at her in the eyes and she looked at me. Then we kissed and started making out, and we started taking our clothes off, and the fireplace I installed showed our shadows flowing like madness. Time skip. I woke up from Kurikara telling me that there's a spike in the space element, so I put on my shorts and made her appear and unsheathed it. Melissa woke up as well. "What's wrong?" she asked worriedly. I turned to her and said, "Someone is about to open a portal." And as soon as I said that, a portal appeared in front of the door. Me and Melissa exchanged looks, and we knew what it was. Dragon Realm Portal. Then out came an old man, and as soon as he saw me alert, he became scared. "You are Izuku midoriya?" he asked with fear in his voice. I nodded. "The King and Queen of the North Fire Dragon Kingdom invite you to dinner for an apology that not all royal dragons are like that. They are from the South Water Dragon Kingdom." So we ask you, will you come? He asked with a hint of nervous. I looked at him and read his mind through the mind element, and sure enough, he was telling the truth. I looked at Melissa. What do you say? Wanna go? I asked her in her mind. She smiled helplessly at me but nodded. I smiled and turned to the old guy. Sure, we'd love to come, I told him. He sighed in relief. He nodded, then was about to talk when I interrupted him. But let us get ready, shall you? We're not exactly in the right stuff, I said. He then noticed me half naked and Melissa naked but under the blanket. He blushed a bit and nodded, then ran back into the portal. I turned to Melissa, who was blushing a bit. Let's get dressed, I said. She could do nothing but nod, and I hopped in the shower while she got in with me. We washed ourselves and got ready. I was in a black three-piece suit, with a tie and Gucci dress shoes that Melissa gave me, and she was wearing a light green princess dress, golden princess curls for her legs, red high heels. You look so good that I don't even know how gorgeous you look, I told her, grabbing her hands. She went crimson and muttered, an idiot. I laughed and kissed her. Then the door opened, and in came Uraraka. Hey Dee, she said, but stopped at our sight, and blushed at me but glared at Melissa. What going on here? She said with her hair covering her eyes. Me and Melissa looked at her with a what the buck look. I sighed and said, we're going to a dinner that I was invited to. She then glared at her. But why with her? She said, pointing at Melissa. I shrugged. Don't know, maybe because she's my girlfriend? I said. She then looked at me sadly. But why do you want to be with her when you can be with me? She said with a sad but innocent look. I deadpanned her. You were the one who betrayed me, not just because of the not believing in me, but don't forget I saw you and Lita making out. I was tired, so I didn't really see anything, but looking back I did see it, so get out of my room, I said coldly but with a deadpan look. Then I used her nerve electricity to make her leave, and as soon as she did I closed the door. I turned to Melissa to see her with a dumbfounded look. She turned to me and asked, how'd you do that? She asked me with a bit of stars in her eyes. I laughed at her. Learned it a while ago. It was fun to do it against some villains and make them just go and turn themselves in, I said. She glared at me and hit my shoulder. Ouch. A hat was that for? I said to her. She glared at me harder. Don't make other people do your bidding, she scolded. I sighed. Fine, I won't, I'll stop, I said sincerely. She nodded in satisfaction and entered a comfortable silence. An hour later the portal opened up and out came the old guy. I see you're ready. Very well then, let's go, he said as he walked through the portal. Me and Melissa looked at each other, and I grabbed her hand and went through the portal. The dinner. Izuku's POV. Once me and Melissa were done with the whole, how did my mom put it again? Oh right, Bubbles the boar. Anyways, we went through the portal and were immediately greeted with a big castle and a hallway of guards, in an outside courtyard, and behind us was a teleportation gate. Wow, I can teleport by myself, thank you very much. In front of us were what looks like a family, an older male who looks like a king, with white hair, azure blue eyes, about 6 feet 0 inches, a sturdy build, a king-like robe around him, a ring on him that felt like it had a bit of the space element, which means he has a dimensional ring, which is basically a small little room like the size of a suitcase that can carry anything, so basically a pocket dimension to store stuff. Anyways, back to where I was. The woman beside him was a gunmetal hair, lime eyes, pale skin, about 5 feet 6 inches, a white dress decorated with golden designs, a marriage ring and a dimensional ring as well. She had a golden crown, but it was more like a band on her head, and she had this aura of maternity. Then there was a girl around my age. Technically, she had auburn red hair, forest green eyes, red dress that looked a bit from Japan. She had 2-dimensional rings on and a golden necklace. She was glaring at Melissa, to which Melissa glared back, which made her flinch and made me chuckle internally. Then there was a kid around 10. He had gray-like hair, azure eyes, about 4 feet 8 inches, had a white royal dress shirt, back dress pants, and boots. He looked like he was sizing me up. He was puffing out his chest and sticking out his chin like someone who would size up somebody, which made me chuckle a bit. Lord Izuku and Lady Melissa, it is nice to meet you, the king said, bowing, while the rest of the family did too, but the boy did begrudgingly. I waved them off and said, no need for formalities, it's pretty annoying for me and I've never been called that, so please don't, so just call me midoriya. This caught them off, especially the kid, but nodded nonetheless. Anyways, the king continued. Why thank you, midoriya. I am King Arthur Aerolith, and this, he pointing at the women, is my wife Tesha Aerolith. She curtsied a bit. And this is my daughter Helen Aerolith. The girl curtsied with a bit of a blush which made Melissa narrow her eyes at her. And this is my son Ray Aerolith, he said, introducing everyone while the kid scowled a bit. And immediately knew he hated me for some reason. As we nodded and I bowed and Melissa curtsied, he led us to the dining hall where he said we will be having dinner. We sat down, and the dinner was brought, and we ate, and while we ate King Arthur spoke up. So midoriya, what did those West-South water dragons want with you? He said curiously. I turned to him and sighed. They tried to force me into an arranged marriage, but you know us dragons, we hate being controlled by people we don't trust. I said to him with a smile. He chuckled. Yeah, we dragons do love our freedom, he said, annoyed by the fact that they tried to force me to do something. As we ate, me and Melissa answered questions, well, mostly me, but as soon as Melissa answered a question, Helen said, so I was never told who this was. With a bit of disdain in her voice, I turned to her, ignoring the disdain. Oh, this is the love of my life. My girlfriend and future wife. I said the last part, turning and smirking at my loved one's pure red face. After that, Helen seemed upset about the fact that I would make her my wife, to which I ignored, and Ray looked mad and finally spoke up. Why are you the one to marry the jewel of dragons and not me? I am a prince and you're a commoner, you should be grateful. He was cut off by me releasing part of my ki, which made the family, and the guards dropped to the floor. My eyes glowed gold and became slitted, and the part of my ki became deadlier that even made Melissa go tense. I came here on good faith that nothing would happen, but you little brat dare to say that she's yours when you can't even take part of my killing intent, and you are nothing to stand up to her. She is a goddess of the godly element, the white fire. She belongs to no one but me, I said, using my dragon voice, and let up my ki so they could breathe again. The family seemed relieved, and Ray looked terrified as he looked up and started crying out, apologizing. I just sighed. No offense, my king, but why is you kid such a brat? I said to him, annoyed, while Melissa giggles at my annoyance, which I glared at her. The king laughed as the kid was taken away. It isn't our fault, to be honest, we don't spoil him. We don't do anything wrong, we do all the right things, but there's someone who spoils him rotten, so when I find that person I'm going to make him eat dirt, because you see, I came from a humble family, and I actually married Tess since her grandfather wanted me to do so, and I loved her very much, I did. So I don't know where he got it from. As he said that, a man who was wearing silver robes, who looked about the same age as him and had a beard, tensed at that. So you're the one who spoils him? Wow, old people sure do spoil kids, I said, pointing him out. The family turned to him. Grandpa Virion, I'm sorry, but did you spoil my child into making him a brat? Arthur said as Ray tensed, and I read his mind with the mind element. Why does Papa think I'm a brat? I sent him an image of him earlier, making it look as he remembered, while the Arthur smacked Virion across the head and Tess pinched him. Oh my god, I am a brat. Okay, you can fix this, Ray. Just try and be humble and try not to act arrogant, he thought hopefully. I smirked at that and looked at my watch, which is secretly my cane, which can tell time to transform into my cane. It was getting late, so I said to the king, I'm sorry, my king, but it's getting rather late, and we have to go. He nodded and led us out to the portal. As we stopped at the portal, I created a dimensional ring, which I figured out I could do with Kurikara, and tossed it to him. He caught it and looked at me confused. That ring is the size of a king-size room, so I hope you like it as a thanks for you not being a hick and treating great, I said to him. He thankfully nodded, and we went through the portal. As we got out of the portal, we were outside of Heights Alliance, and so we walked into the common room, and I saw a lizard giant man, a patched-eye man, a African-American man, a tattooed man there, while the kids of 1A glaring at them. Guys? Izuku kid? The hangout with the guys. No one's POV. Guys? Izuku kid? That's what the guys from his prison days called out to him. They were staring at each other for a moment before he ran to them, and they ran at him. Everyone got on guard except Bakugo and Melissa because they knew their history. Then what happened next caught them off guard. They group hugged for about 3 minutes as tears ran down each of their cheeks. Since when are you guys here? Izuku said with the tears running down his eyes. They smiled at him and felt that he still cared, but Slade slapped on the back of the head. That's for not visiting us. But I'm glad to see you, kid. He said, muttering the last part, but they heard it, and they all smiled. What is going on here? Kaminari said, confused as everyone else nodded, but Lita seemed to recognize them all. Oh, these are my friends from prison. They helped me through the whole mess. He said, happily putting his arm over Slade and Diablo while Floyd was on the side smiling. Midoriya, you shouldn't associate with criminals. Lita yelled, having enough of these people stealing his best friend. Izuku smiled sweetly, but he leaked a bit of Ki and sent it to Lita. Oh, Lita. But who put me in the position to be friends with them? He said, scaringly calm, which made even his friends from prison shiver, and they've met bad, horribly bad. Lita and the rest froze and knew the meaning behind his words, basically saying, yeah, I still remember you a-holes. Izuku then turned to his friends, no Ki, no bad intent, and no harm, just a genuine smile. Let's go out to eat, let me get ready, he said, letting go of the two as they nodded. Izuku walked to Melissa and vanished, which shocked the group as their jaw dropped. He can teleport? They thought with a complete shock. As Izuku appeared, he turned to with a happy smile. I will be back by around 11 o'clock, alright, and when we get back I'm going to spend the whole night with you, okay? He asked her, smiling. She looked at him helplessly but couldn't help but agree, since these were the friends that basically got him out of a tough spot and helped him get through prison until he met Raikon, so she was happy as well that he gets to meet them. She nodded, smiling at him. I know they're your friends. So go have fun with them, and I'm expecting a full marathon Fast and the Furious. She told him, smiling. He beamed at her and hugged her tightly. As he sped and changed into street clothes, black leather jacket with short sleeves, black and gray jeans, black Converse, striped hoodie and a chain, she blushed at his sight. You me date. Friday night, you got that? This hexiness I'm showing off, she said to him, and he laughed, but also sweat dropped at her. He nodded and vanished. I wish he would at least teach me that, she muttered. He reappeared behind the door and drew symbols of the highest protection caliber, even higher to that of the no ones to the cultivations of elements world. As he finished, it glowed for a second and you could almost see the barrier that can knock off gods. So he vanished again and reappeared in front of his friends. All of them jumped, even Slade. He laughed as he walked to them but received a slap on the back of the head. OW, what was that for? Izuku yelled at Slade. Slade mock glared at him. Don't scare us like that, you runt, he said, looking down at him. Izuku mock glared at him back. Hey, don't call me a runt, Diablo is the smallest one here, he said back. Diablo blushed a bit at how he just got roasted for his height, since he's 5 feet 7 inches and the rest are above 6 foot. And Croc is around 7 feet, so that doesn't count. He got mad at Izuku and threw a fireball at him, but Izuku just blocked it. Hold up, no need to mad, come on, let's go have some fun, he said, smiling. They all smiled and they headed out. Once they were on their way to the restaurant called Katsukatsu, which is basically Katsudon and other stuff but mainly Katsudon. Once they got in, a lot of people turned to them, some people afraid of Croc but others to the rising hero in training, Raikon, because you see in the past few months he's been taking down villains up and down when he's barely in training, so people are excited to see him. The manager came to them. I'm sorry, sir, but he was cut off by Izuku, changing his mindset a bit. He may have promised Melissa to not make people do his bidding, but this guy wanted to kick out his friends and him, so no. Sorry, he's not kicking them out. Right this way, sir, he said. Surprising evening, since the sign says no mutant quirks. The group sat down, ordered, and began talking about what they've been up to these past few days. Time skip. Once they were done with eating, they went back to the UA to drop Izuku off. As they were walking, someone came up to them with a gun. Hurry up and give me your money now, the guy yelled. The guys looked at each other and laughed. The guy grew red. Hey, what are you laughing at? The man yelled. Then a sword was at his neck, guns to his face, a fiery hand next to him, and Croc showing his teeth to his face. It's safe to say that the man pissed his pants. Once that all was done, they were having a good laugh. While dropping off Izuku, it was 10:47. Well, it was really nice to see you all, but where are you staying? He asked him, still happy. They all smiled at him. Right next door, actually, literally right across the street, he said, pointing to the building right in front of UA. Which made him sweat drop. He laughed at that. They said their goodbyes, then he went inside to find every girl on the floor and Melissa standing on top. He was stupefied at what he saw, so he walked up to her. What happened here? he asked her, looking around and seeing some boys on the ground too, and she had her heel on Nijire's head. She turned to him and laughed nervously. Well, I was going to get a bowl of cereal when I got jumped. Literally right before you came here I knocked them out, but this one's persistent, she said, looking at Nijire, who was squirming under her. Izuku sighed as he grabbed her and vanished. They reappeared and he smiled at her. He kissed her before busting out laughing. You did great in putting them in their place, he said, laughing. She giggled as they grabbed some movies and put them on and cuddled. That night all they did was have their little alone time. Pop goes the Sphinx head. Izuku's POV. Have you ever wanted to just kill someone so bad, but you love them, so you don't, but you still angry? Well, that's what I am right now. Melissa said that she wanted to do something fun, and I really like her idea of fun, but for real, right now. We're in a museum of the olden times. I was so bored that I started imagining ways how to destroy this museum. Like, come on, there was a sword that looked so old that I felt like Dad was the youngest person in the world. I heard that. I tensed and glared at the ground. Stupid connection that keeps me connected to him, I thought bitterly. Don't get me wrong, I love my dad. It's just that I don't like people being in my head. It leaves a bad taste in my brain. Seriously, man, my brain feels like cracking from having a voice outside talking and his voice coming from time to time. Anyways, Melissa was talking about Medusa and how she was actually supposed to use her power to protect herself, but she used it against other people. I actually admire her. She wanted to be left alone, but the curse that Athena on her was worse than she thought, and I heard that it corrupted her, she said, smiling slightly. I almost busted out laughing at that. Because you see, Dad knew the Greek gods. He said that they were fun to watch. It was like a soap opera without a TV. He also told me about Medusa. She was actually an Athena worshipper, but she grew mad about it more and more, until she felt that she was above Athena since people always told her that she looks better and is smarter than her. She seduced Poseidon with a little help from Aphrodite, who wanted to cause some trouble to Athena for always mocking her, who at the moment Athena was crushing on, and they slept together. The funny part is that she wanted her curse to be subtle, but Poseidon figured the whole Aphrodite thing, so he got mad at both Medusa and Aphrodite. But Aphrodite came later. He said that they went back and forth with curses until finally she was the Medusa everyone knows and loves. It was quite funny, to be honest. I really liked that story, to be honest. Anyways, as she was talking I saw the Sphinx glaring at me. I know, because he didn't have stone eyes. No. He had literal eyes. Scara was white, but the pupils were green slitted eyes. I stood there staring at it. It felt like it was pulling me in. But my adamantium-like will, I snapped out of it and tapped Melissa on the shoulder. She turned around confused as to why I stopped her until I pointed at the Sphinx with my left arm that was holding her hand. She turned and froze as well. But unlike me, she had a steel-like will. And the Sphinx is a god-level monster, so she couldn't resist, so she started walking, and in a full-out sprint she went. Which was less than a second to get there. I sighed and felt the power of Kurikara surge through me, since I didn't want to walk all the way there since it was across the museum, and in an instant I'm behind Melissa, pulling on the back of her shirt into my arm. I looked at her, and saw that she wasn't coming back any sooner, so as the good boyfriend I am, I carried her in my arm like how you hold something under your armpit. Anyways, I walked up to the Sphinx. Hey Sphinx, why are you trying to kill people, and what did you do to my girlfriend? I asked in a sweet time, but I was letting a bit of my ki out, so it didn't really sound as nice. He glared at me. I only kill people that get wrong answers, even gods, so come mortal, answer my 3 riddles and I shall let you live, he said arrogantly as I heard the sound of cockiness, ignoring the part about Melissa. I glared a bit, but then I smirked. He didn't know I was a god. I always keep my presence hidden, even from monsters. Always in a fight, never keep your guard down. Father's voice resided in my memory as I brought it up. Also, you see, because I am a god, if the Sphinx asks me his riddles, and I answer all 3, he doesn't get to reform for about 20,000 years. Which is as painful as hell. X 10 million is what I heard from my dad, so took precautions not to die early in my life. Bring it on, kitten, I said, pissing him further on. I am first in earth, second in heaven. I appear 2 times in a week. You can only see me once a year, although I am in the middle of the sea. What am I? It asked me, narrowing its green eyes. So this one I had to think about. I let out a hum while putting my index finger and my thumb on my chin, still hanging on to Melissa with my other arm. I was in deep thought. I couldn't think of anything that has that kind of description. Then I remembered the words of wisdom from my father. Flashback. I was sitting down, with my legs crossed. My dad was teaching me all the types of monsters. Even though we're the strongest mythology, other gods still exist plus they're monsters, so we have to be careful. And right now, he was teaching me about the Egyptian mythology, category, monsters. Okay, when dealing with the Sphinx, a god-level monster, you can defeat it in due time. You will anyways. Back to the Sphinx, he'll ask you riddles. But don't think of them as normal mortal riddles. Think outside the box. Always think about the words. About the spelling, about how he explains it, how he talks about it, everything okay? Raikon asked his son. Izuku nodded as he burned the informant into his brain, because with his luck, of course he'll meet this Sphinx in his lifetime. Flashback end. No one's POV. Izuku snapped back into reality and smirked. The wording and the spelling, how he explains it, first in earth, second in heaven, 2 times I in a week, once in a year, middle of the sea, the answer is E. Izuku looked up and smirked, which made the Sphinx frown. No one was ever that cocky. The answer is E, he said, making the Sphinx double back. Never in the whole life of the Sphinx has anyone ever gotten that riddle. He gave that riddle to someone that got close. That's where the villain, the Riddler, came from, but this mortal somehow got it. It narrowed its eyes. Okay, what I want, the poor has, and the rich need, and if you eat it you'll die. What do I want? It said, smirking. Izuku smiled. He literally knew this one. His mom always told him this one. Nothing, he said, smirking. The Sphinx grew red if it could get red? Easy one, let's try this one. A diamond plate, a glowing grate, and a place where you never leave. What am I? It asked, smirking. No one has ever got this, not even the Riddler, and he was the Prince of Riddles. Izuku froze and racked his brain until he came up with it. Home plate. Glowing grate, which is a fireplace, and a place where you never leave, your house, so home, he said, smirking widely, and pop goes the Sphinx head. War omen. No one's POV. Today is not a good day. It is a very not good day. After the Sphinx, a person came to him warning him about the upcoming threat. He looked weak but felt strong. He said that in the future, the mortal gods will come to this world and try and take over, and they were coming here soon, since he was the strongest there was in world right now. Then there was an explosion in the middle of UA. When he went to check it out, All Might was on the ground beaten by someone who was flying, and he knew who he was. He saw them at his duel against the Flame Head. He had the power of metal. But Izuku knew that this guy was close to Archangel rank. Now Izuku was angry. They wouldn't let him alone, so they attack his home? Never. Izuku midoriya, the figure called out. You join us, and we can conquer this world, or you go against us, and you will die with them. Your choice. You have 3 years, the figure said before he melted into metal and disappeared. Everyone turned to Izuku and immediately knew that he wasn't on their side, considering that they said they would kill him if he doesn't join, and that Izuku's face was darker than a serial killer's, and he was letting out so much killing intent that it evolved into bloodlust. Time skip. Izuku was in the middle of a conference room, all the great heroes in the room, even All Might, who had just recovered after being healed. They were all staring at him, while he had a serious look on his face. Listen, I don't know why they want me. Maybe it's because I'm strong and that's it, he said, while everyone but 2 narrowed their eyes at him. But the next thing he said made them look away. Go ahead, don't believe me, I'm used to it. Send me to prison, see how much of my trust in you is left, he said in a calm tone that made them shiver. They nodded as Nisa spoke. Then what shall we do? We don't know what their intentions are, he said, a little frightened. Izuku raised a brow at him. How could this be the smartest thing in the world again? Izuku then got up, did a little something he learned in his time with his father. He drew a circle with the Enochian word for project. All of a sudden a screen made of energy appeared. Everyone turned to him, and he started to explain. These people, like me, are called ethereals. They can control the elements to their own will. From this simplest of movements, to literally being able to teleport with the element, they're extremely strong, but only their element is strong. None of them have actual any physical strength. If you take away that element, they're useless. But on the case of why they're here, the earth is rich in elements. So if they move here, they think they can control it. That's where I come in. I can defeat them, but there are a lot of them, So I might lose. Now for the rest of you, beside All Might, well, probably him, will get your ass handed to you. So I will teach you the way of the elements. For the next 3 years you'll be trained by me and Melissa, who is now scanning for your elemental affinities. You're all going to teach the things I give you to your students after these 3 days, or otherwise we will lose this war, you got it? He asked them. They were all pale. There was no way they could win against people that had close to the same powers as he does. Nobody wanted to deny the fact that they do need his help now. Everyone nodded and they left. As Izuku was walking down the hall, when he felt a presence that dwarfed the guy that appeared before. In a flash, before the presence could react, they both were in the mountains and Izuku's foot was at the base of his neck, and then the person felt something. There was a legend: when you get strong enough, you get an aura, you can make it stronger, but with experience you can evolve into presence. But when you kill enough people you get killing intent, but if you kill or massacre what feels like thousands, it then evolves into bloodlust, but if you combine both, you get pressure. That's the most everyone gets to, but if you're strong enough, pressure evolves into something that makes everyone get down onto their knees. It's called domination. Only a few have obtained it, but fewer have mastered it. So when Izuku let out his domination, it made the person feel like an ant to a universe. He wanted to crawl in a ball and die as soon as he felt at least a tiny bit. He then got on his knees and started begging for Izuku not to kill him. Why are you in my world, Ethereal? You gave us 3 years, now go tell your bosses that if they even step foot in my world, they will get reduced to nothingness, got it? He demanded. The person got a look of rebellion, but then he felt an overwhelming force sending him flying. As he was flying, he felt a kick to his ribs, and he went to the ground as it shattered the mountains. He tried to climb out, but he felt a hand on his throat. He looked up and found out that he shouldn't have done it. As he looked into his eyes were golden slits. He suddenly paled, the successor of the god that made other gods pale in comparison, the god of dragons, the god of lighting, the element that made every other element bow in respect. You decide to do anything else, you die, good? He asked, putting domination into his voice. The man nodded fearfully before Izuku punched a hole into the air, creating a rift that leads into the ethereal world. Izuku threw him in the rift as he reached to the rift, and closed it shut just by snapping it together. Then he vanished, appearing in his room, scaring the crap out of Melissa. Melissa fell down, got up seeing a laughing Izuku. She pouted as she crossed her arms. Izuku laughed and hugged her. He then kissed her, held her, and went to take a nap with her. Not that Melissa was complaining. They felt their eyes close and they fell asleep peacefully. Hello, son. Start of the war. In the beginning, there was darkness and there was light. Both beings were powerful. There was no concept of anything, just two powers. At some point the two powers became sentient, curious about each other. The two created space. But the problem was that they couldn't move, so they created time. It took approximately 1 billion years to touch, but once the two touched, a bang went off. The two beings, plus the two elements who gained consciousness, were looking at the new element in wonder. It was wild, going everywhere. The part that was most prominent was that they all could measure the power they have now. The two beings, theirs were beyond measure. Time and space were both growing still as one grew, the other did as well. But the new being that had arose, their power was growing by itself. It wasn't built off anything, it was just riding. All of them knew that he will be the strongest of the three. Line break. Present time, Earth, 3 years after the war proposal. Izuku was walking down the street patrolling the roads. Ash remembered the days he was in UA. Those were amazing times, especially since he's married to Melissa now. But now war is coming and everyone is getting ready. The governments of the world have been training the world how to defend themselves from the impending world that wants to invade coming for Earth. They have to fight back. He's guessing that since he's the strongest in the world right now, that they're going for him first, because if they take him down, then the world falls. In the 3 years since the other world declared war, even the villains have decided to fight with them and help save the world, cause I'm their words. If someone is going to destroy the world, it is us. It's what they said, which, to be completely honest, weirded him out a bit. Right now they've been quiet, almost too quiet. Izuku knew that something was coming, he just didn't know what. But he knew that a battle was going to erupt, he didn't know when. But it was going to happen. He decided that it was best to be prepared. The dragon tribe would fight with him, since he was their god, so at least he had more backup. Izuku finally finished his patrol around the city looking for portals, but came up empty. He sighed as he headed home at a good speed rate and got there in less than a second. Once he got there, he was about to open the door when Melissa opened the door and latched on to him. "Bad day?" Izuku asked as he gently caressed her head. She nodded, sighing. "Yeah, patrols were annoying with this guy trying to hit on me the whole time. I told him I have a husband but he won't leave me alone," she exclaimed as she hugged tighter. Then she stopped and Izuku felt her power grow. He didn't need to turn around to see the guy. He knew him from somewhere. "You knew I liked you, yet you're still with this faggot. Turn around, buddy. I'll kill you right here and quick," the guy said. This man was in fact an emissary of the sun god. He was acting as a spy for the gods in this world so he could get information. He knew he was strong enough to take on a whole city by himself. He wanted to roast this guy alive slowly and painfully as possible, so he could get the woman who made his heart jump out of his chest. As soon as Izuku turned around, his blood ran cold. This man was strong enough to make the elemental god council quake in fear from just his name. He had the power to fight anyone he wanted, and win every single time, and with just a wave of his hand. In a second, Izuku wrapped his hand around the spy's neck. He wasn't going to make it out alive, but he sure as hell was going to get some information. "Talk," was all Izuku said, but the spy denied and never spoke. He wasn't going to sell out his lord, or his plans. In seconds he lived a beautiful life where he had everything he wanted, but he retained his memories. He was finally killed a gruesome way, but he then woke up again, in the same life, lived the same way but killed another way. This happened over and over again, until he broke and shouted for Izuku to stop. Izuku let go of the man's neck as the spy fell to the ground. He looked up with horror in his eyes as he gazed upon Izuku. "Boo," was all Izuku said. That made the spy spill every plan that the gods have came up with. Izuku sighed. This was going to be a long battle ahead. After that thought, Melissa looked confused. Izuku turned around and explained what had just happened. It's safe to say at the end of that explanation that the spy's balls weren't with us anymore, R.I.P. little friends. After that altercation, a portal, the size of a city, opened up. Izuku nodded at Melissa and darted towards the portal. Melissa called for Sylvie and rode her to where Izuku was heading. When Izuku got there, he found troops and legions of soldiers coming through the portal, and rows of monsters that had sun emblems on their necks. In front was the sun god, Solis Lacrima. That's what he read from the spy's memories. From what he could tell, the god had planted spies all over the world. Izuku had energy clones kill them all when he was on his way to the portal. They're killing all of them as they wait, and one is bringing the head of the spy he just interrogated. "Izuku midoriya, we meet again at last. This world is rich with ethereal power, even more than my home. Now surrender. I know what you are, PLA." Solis was cut off by another Izuku appearing with the heads of all of his spies. No matter who it was, they were all there. How? "Your supporter had the bright idea of wanting my wife, but he didn't know who I was, so things turned out for the worst, didn't they?" Izuku said, cutting Solis off. Solis was angered by this. No, Izuku didn't poke at his fury, he poked at his wrath. He spoke the words that changed the world and started the War of Legends. Attack. Sun versus lightning, God versus God. No one's POV. Boom. 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 The battle raged on in the sky between two beings, one who solely used the power of the sun. He was shooting attacks all over. The other using his hands and feet. The force of his hits were so powerful that when they clashed the world shook. The battle on the ground raged on as well between the followers of the sun, who followed the sun god here to fight with him, against the people of Earth, who found out how to use the power of the elements plus their quirks. The battle looked like it was the Earth's people who fought with the unbreakable will. There was no race in this battle, no people from certain countries, just humans fighting for their home. Melissa rained terror amongst the followers of the sun. With her heavenly flame she decimated entire legions of sun followers. Her power made them run away from her as fast as they could. The pro-heroes and villains worked together, and the high-ranking ones were strong enough to kill legions as well. Even civilians held their own and only died if they got cocky against their enemy. All Might was one of the few who was not able to kill, so he knocked them out to oblivion. It was a miracle that the ones that he killed, he didn't notice, so he kept fighting. Back with the two gods in the sky, Their clashes kept going, shaking the world with their sheer power. And that's when the sun god used elemental aura. Elemental aura is when you coat yourself in an aura powered by your element, which gives one an overwhelming boost in power. Seeing this, Izuku unleashed 25% of his physical strength. His physical strength alone caused the world to shake and the realm to rumble. For the past 3 years, Izuku had time to focus on his strength, and with that, he was able to grow stronger than he's ever imagined, and with that, he was able to make a god use his trump cards with just his physical strength. "Give up, I have destroyed continents with this form, you cannot win," he said as he glared at Izuku with the rage of the sun, pun intended. Izuku smirked and charged at him. With mind-boggling speeds, Solis charged as well as he charged his elemental energy into his fist, and with that clash even space itself was distorted for a little while. Their clashes made all the warriors on the ground floor stop and look. This battle didn't matter anymore. The fight between the two gods is what mattered. It was them who decided the outcome of this battle, so they stood and watched. None made a move. All they wanted is to watch the majestic fight in the sky. Boom. 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 "You're giving me a good fight, midoriya, make sure to stay alive," Solis called as he charged a huge amount of solar energy into a singular spot and shot towards him. Izuku smacked it away with a backhand slap and darted towards Solis, who as well charged back. Their fists clashed and an explosion of power went off, sending the nearest warriors on the ground, tumbling away from the fight. Izuku and Solis exchanged in hand-to-hand combat, which was odd. It's not every day you see two gods get into hand-and-hand combat. Izuku sent a kick to his face and Solis ducked under it, but the shock wave of the kick sent him down a little from the air. Izuku spun around one time and axe kicked him down to earth. As he was flying down, Izuku appeared below him and kicked him back up. Then he appeared above and kicked him to the left, and then to the right. This went on for a couple of seconds before Izuku upped his unleashed power by 5% and uppercut him into the sky. Then he appeared above him, ready to finish it when Solis suddenly became shining bright golden light. When the light died down, he had his eyes were golden and marks of sun flares all over his body in forms of marks, and they were glowing. All that was left of his clothes was his lower toga that was tied to his waist. His hair turned bright golden now. "This is the difference between us, midoriya. I have the power to destroy whenever I want, and now, I want to do just that. Now prepare yourself, for I am going to come at you with everything I got," he said as he burst with power and dashed forward towards Izuku at such speed that no one on the ground could follow. Izuku just stood there as Solis's hand was close to his face, not moving. Solis smirked, thinking that he was going to pummel him into his slave. But before he could end that thought, he was sent flying by a powerful force of power that made him feel like an ant. One word was spoken, and one word only. Enough. There, in the middle stood Izuku with 50% of his power out. He disappeared and appeared right next to Solis at such speed that it looked like he teleported in an instant. Izuku looked at him with cold green eyes. "Weak," he said as he flicked him back 1,000 kilometers. Solis slammed into a mountain and the mountain exploded, and Solis' head was bleeding and he threw up blood. Izuku then grabbed Solis by the throat. "I'm sorry, I'm another life, we probably would have been friends, you seem like someone who is a good person, but you attacked my home and for that, I cannot forgive you for it, sorry for this, spill secrets," he said, lacing his voice with elemental sound energy so he can spill the secrets of the war. Back on the ground, the people that were fighting saw that Izuku had won. "We won." The people of Earth cheered as the Sun followers looked down in defeat. Their god was defeated, and he was about to die. What could they do now? Solis's eyes went white as his ethereal god form dissipated. Izuku sighed. He doesn't like taking people's will away from them. As the god of dragons, it pains him to. Dragons love their freedom. They cherish it so much that they are willing to kill anything and everything to keep it. That is why the tribe of the element of the Tempest god were wiped out. They thought that they were meant to ride dragons and make them submit. The whole tribe was annihilated in a single night. As soon as he was done extracting information from the sun god, Izuku set him down a few meters away from him as he waited for the god to regain consciousness. His thoughts ran wild while he thought of how the gods are going to attack 3 days after this, then 2 days after that, then they are going to stay silent for a while. Since it's a battle strategy, make your opponent wait for you to retreat, then attack with full force. he had to get reinforcements. The Earth may take more casualties if he doesn't, he knows they could win. But at how many lives cost? How many lives have to be sacrificed for them to win? His eyes went completely golden for a second and he smirked. It was so easy, how could he not see it? He was the god of dragons, the dragons were his people, so he should protect his people. And for him to do that, they have to do something for him as well. He smiled. This war might as well have taken a different turn, but would that be enough? When the time comes and the battlefield is just him, he will annihilate them, all of them. A groan broke Izuku out of his thoughts. He looked to the side and Solis was waking up. He looked up and said something. "Oh, my everything hurts," he groaned out. Izuku looked at him and couldn't hold it. He started to laugh. Solis couldn't hold it as well as he laughed as well. They laughed for a couple of seconds but then stopped, and Solis picked himself up and looked at Izuku. "What now? Will you kill me?" he asked with a sad smile as he looked down because he was tired. Izuku looked up at the sky. "My master once told me that someone who fights with honor knows when something is wrong. They know, but they are also loyal, so they can't speak up about it. Now tell me, do you believe that all of this is wrong?" Izuku asked as he pointed at the destruction of the city they were in. Izuku was glad they evacuated the civilians that weren't able to fight. Solis looked around and saw the destruction. He knew this was wrong. This may have not been his world, but they were still living beings. He didn't want to fight them. He was fine living his life in Etheria, the world of the ethereals. It was peaceful until the primordial gods found out about this world. They wanted it for themselves. He didn't like that, he wanted peace, but there was so little he could do. "Yes, I think it is wrong. The gods are being unreasonable trying to conquer this planet," he said solemnly, looking at the ground, hating himself for even going through with this. "Then how about you join us?" Izuku asked with a smile. Solis looked up and was surprise evident in his face. But I attacked you, shouldn't I be a prisoner of war or you should kill me?" he asked with surprise and fear. He probably shouldn't have asked that. "Yes, but the way I see it, everyone deserves forgiveness. Even the worst of people have some good in them. Look at most of the people that were fighting. All of them used to be criminals that would kill for fun. Now they're fighting for their planet in unison with what used to be their enemy. Now let me ask you this again. Will you join us?" Izuku asked with a genuine smile. Solis looked at him, then the world, then at himself. He smirked. This guy was way better than the gods of Etheria. His kindness knew no bounds. He'd rather be on his side than anyone's side. "I'll take your side." Before he could finish, Izuku appeared in front of him and pulled him behind him. Solis turned around and there was someone there with a sword where he used to be. The sword was held by Izuku's fingers. Izuku snapped the sword into pieces and grabbed them by the throat and lifted them up as their hood fell off. Under the hood was a beautiful woman, bright auburn hair, silver eyes and slim figure. Solis seemed to freeze. He was in a state of horror. "Luna, why? Why did you try to kill me? You were my wife." Solis cried out in emotional pain as tears were flowing out of his eyes. Izuku dropped her on the floor and stared her down. He felt the element of the moon on her, so she must be the moon to his sun. It's very cliché if he had to say so. Luna looked at him with cold eyes. "You betrayed the gods, you were going to turn sides, the gods ordered me to kill you. You are nothing but a traitor who should be put down like a dog," she said with hate-filled eyes. Solis looked broken that his loved hated him so much. But he was doing the right thing, so many lives could be spared cause they didn't fight. Izuku out a hand on his shoulder. "Don't worry about what she says, she's just a puppet of theirs. She's an idiot for even trying to betray you, okay? Hey, listen to me. You are the most righteous man I have ever met, so don't let her words deceive you, okay?" Izuku asked, bringing Solis back to his senses. Solis sighed and nodded at his words. Like the saying says, the moon always has a dark side to it. It was meant for all people, but it was a perfect analogy for her. He looked at Luna and nodded towards Izuku. Izuku nodded and extracted information from her. "What shall we do to her now? Kill her?" Izuku asked Solis with a calm look. Solis looked at him, then her, then he nodded. It was the right thing to do. She was strong beyond measure as well. She was only a round below him. But what scared him more is that Izuku defeated her in seconds. Izuku was stronger than anything he has ever seen. "Sure," Izuku said as he lit her up in flames that looked like dark and white. There wasn't even ashes in the spot she was at. There was no scream, no agony, just death. It was odd, she'll reform. But in about 100,000 years, far after the war is over, so it will be fine. As long as the moons were there, she's alive. If they wanted to actually kill her, they'd have to destroy Etheria's 6 moons. Now what? Solis asked, confused as to what will happen from now on. Izuku smiled, pulled out a cane. Solis froze. He didn't know what that was, but he felt the absolute power coming from it. Just the mere presence of the cane was enough to make any normal soldier under God realm buckle. This, Izuku said as he tapped the cane on the ground, and the city was back to how it was. It looked like time was rewinding on the city. Then Izuku tapped it again and a shine went out, and the city was back to normal. Izuku and Solis walked back to a school that looked like a giant H, which made him sweat drop. Humans were weird. All the prisoners of war were sitting down with depressed faces. They all thought that Solis died in battle. They all wished for a quick death. Hey, my followers! Solis said happily. They all looked up in surprise. He was alive and in front of them. They all kneeled in happiness, glad that he didn't die. On Solis's side, though, he was thankful none of them died, which made him happy. But how? He clearly saw some of them die from afar. Time is a beautiful thing, isn't it? Izuku asked as he smiled at him. Solis looked at Izuku in surprise, which turned to happiness. He then did something that surprised everyone. He kneeled. His followers were shocked to the core. Their god was a righteous god who never kneeled to no one. So seeing him kneel to someone made them realize that he was someone who was great man enough to make him kneel for him. I pledge my allegiance and my loyalty to you, Izuku Midoriya. May the ethereal gods that control space, time and power hear my pledge and strike me down if I ever betray you. Solis pledged with honor in his voice. Every Sun follower kneeled to Izuku and pledged the same thing. Izuku smiled at them. With these people on his side, he'll be able to win this war fast. He heard running and turned around and saw Melissa coming towards him and hugging him. Thank everything that you're okay, she said, hugging him even more tightly. Izuku smiled and hugged back with a smile. Even though it made every girl that saw this jealous, they didn't care. All right, I accept your allegiance, Izuku said, completely forgetting about the Sun people. Solis got up and glared at Izuku. You're a hick for that, you know that? Going all lovey-dovey in front of people who pledged their allegiance and forgot about us, making us wait, he said, glaring playfully at Izuku. Izuku glared playfully back. Stop acting like a hitch, Izuku said, smirking, making Solis gasp. They argued for a few minutes before Melissa smacked both of them across the head. You're scaring them, she said dangerously, pointing at everyone else. Sorry, they both said with their heads hung. The followers and the warriors of Earth's sweat dropped at them. They just met for the second time and they acted like old friends. And Melissa? She was scary. Alright, there's much to discuss. The war is not over. We still have a long way to go. There will be another attack soon. Start preparing. The battle is in 3 days. I will be gone for the next day. I will get some reinforcements, Izuku said with a serious look. Everyone nodded and left except Solis and Melissa. What type of reinforcements? Solis asked curiously. The armies for the gods were massive. The battle in 3 days will be filled with close to 3 million soldiers. Well, there is a reason I'm a fusion ethereal realm god, he said as his eyes turned into golden slits. Solis then remembered a detail about him. His title as the god of dragons. We'll go there tomorrow. For now, you get some rest. You look half dead, Izuku said, smirking at Solis, who glared back at him. Oh yeah? Whose fault is that? Well, yours, of course. How is that my fault? 'Cause you're a dumbass. Oh, shut the hell up, you prick. Buck you, you rainbow pineapple. What did you say to me, you overgrown tree? You wanna go, you giant Pikachu? Let's go, well unplowed Christmas tree. Boys, Melissa screamed at them, stopping their banter before it could escalate into something worse. Both Izuku and Solis flinched at her. They froze and turned robotically to the side. She had this scary look on her face that made them shiver. Bonk. Bonk. After that, they were both on the ground groaning from the hit as lumps on their head as Melissa turned around with a tick mark on her head. After a few minutes after that, they got places for Solis and his followers to stay so they wouldn't sleep on the floor or something. Izuku and Melissa retired to their house. Izuku grabbed Melissa from her thighs, kissed her as Melissa kissed back. They both smiled at each other and went to the bed. It was a long day, and they both needed to relieve stress.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.